All right, Kingkillers, we're covering chapters 33 through 36 in this episode. We finally arrive at the heist scene as the boys and the girls destroy the mommet in Ambrose's room. Then Nina returns to give Kvothe a picture of the Chandrian she drew of the pot that she found at the Mauthen Farm. We also discover what would have been a perfect way to bring Abenthy back into the story, what Kilvin is like when he's drunk, and a weird secret that Denna is keeping on a special little collection she has of Kvothe. So sit back and enjoy. All right, welcome back to the Kingkiller podcast. We're a man down again this episode as Fitz. He had a major mishap while giving himself a Brazilian wax job. So moving forward, he's going to be known as our castrati friend. But never fear, as your astoundingly awe-inspiring leader, is here. And we have the biggest 4'9" podcaster in the game, tediously tasteless Tim.
Nice.
What's going on, Tim?
A lot of this has been going on for a while. This talk of me being short, and it's not true.
I don't think 4'9" is that short. I agree with you. It's a misrepresentation of what short is. Like if you go back to the prehistoric days, that's probably pretty tall. So it's a matter of perspective.
Yes, it's a matter of perspective.
And
if I was 4'9", my perspective would be very skewed because I'd be looking up constantly at everything. But
yeah, he's definitely 4'9".
Here's looking at you.
Fitz, I'm hoping he's going to be back next week. That was a rough accident, though.
It sounds bad.
Might be a little high pitched.
Sounds
forward,
like something that wouldn't be worth the risk, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it seems like a job you would hire out. You don't think you would do that yourself.
Well, I don't. It's never occurred to me to do it.
Yeah, that's not something where you want a penny pinch on. You hire that work out.
Yeah, if you're actually going to do something of that nature, not sure why you would, but if you were, yeah, that would be something that you might want to. You might actually want to go the route of pretty decent job. I don't even know how to where you go for. Well, whatever. I'm sure there's places, right?
Yeah. But we are jumping into chapter 33 to start off this week. It's titled Fire. And in this chapter, we got Kvothe. He gets a note from Denna, but the dim-witted runner boy took too long to find him, so he's forced to head to his meeting in the woods instead of meet up with her. In the woods, he meets up with Will, Sim, Fella, and Mola surprisingly brings Devi to help. They proceed to the heist, where they set fire to Ambrose's room and destroy the mommet. Classic fucking chapter.
Yeah, this is badass. Big standouts for me are definitely Devi's so great. She's so great in this chapter, and then Fella smoking hot. But yeah, Devi's just the best. Her and Willem especially are both really cool. In this chapter. But
Will's got some great lines in a number of these chapters that we covered today.
Yeah, well, and Devi. Yeah, the two of them really, that's one of the things, Rothfuss really, in such a cool way, does use, especially here, I mean, there are scenes when it's Devi and Kvothe, throughout the books where she's going to talk a lot more because it's just the two of them. But in this group, she's very sparing with her speech. And when she does speak, it's like with the same with Will. It's always quite interesting, impactful, and funny.
Yeah, she's just cutting people down left and right.
Yeah.
It's classic. I mean, it's classic her. That's, what we've seen, and her personality with Kvothe. She brings that with everybody else. This is the only time we see Debbie with anybody but Kvothe.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, in the books as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't see her with anybody else. But at the very beginning of the chapter, we get this kid coming in, bringing in. I like the fact where he's like, she said you'd give me a jot for bringing it to you. And he's like, I doubt that. I'll give you a halfpenny if it's really for me. And it's in the note. It's Kvothe, your presence is graciously requested for dinner tonight. I've missed you. I have exciting news. Please meet me at the Barrel and Boar at Fifth Bell. Yours, Denna. Postscript, I promised the boy a halfpenny.
Yeah.
And she's exactly what Kvothe promised him. Little kid's little hustler. Stupid hustler, though. He's very dumb.
Yeah, he's dumb. He's sweaty. He's not very good at what he's doing. I like the world building, the realism of how he's trying to hustle, because you would sort of think, that's this would be kind of the way that this job would work. And then Kvothe handles him quite well in terms of trying to get it to then work, which I'm trying to remember if Denna even ends up getting the note.
No, he never finds her. So
he never
this
got
kid
any money anyway.
this kid completely screws up.
Nice.
I think he probably got his halfpenny and was like, screw it, I'm not doing this anymore. Took long enough to find this stupid place. I'm not. Yeah, and imagine like having to find Denna. It's like, I mean, think of the amount of times Kvothe has tried to find her. It's not an easy task.
Yeah, well, and then he makes these assumptions about anchor. Well, there's no anchor. He's like, yeah, that's because you don't understand what it actually is. What you didn't even know what you were looking for. It's like, ask somebody, fucking idiot.
Yeah, but, I mean, Denna probably should have made it more clear instead of saying, down by the river place, anchors. Probably should have specified that it's a bar.
Yeah.
But I mean, that kid, like, just, obviously ask somebody, moron.
Well, I was going to say, it's hard to tell.
That's the stereotypical man, I'm not asking for directions.
Well, it's also, we don't know exactly what she told him. So he's just saying what he heard. Maybe he doesn't listen very well either, which that would kind of fit with the character, it seems.
It's, I never have this problem. Like, if I can't find where I need to go, I just boom, push in the address on my phone.
Yeah.
And it tells me exactly where to go.
Super easy. Yeah, he should have yelped it. What's his problem? He didn't have Yelp.
Yeah. And they got magic. Like, surely they should have at least technology comparable to us.
Yeah, well, this kid's,
They got, a semblance of Google Maps with, if they got someone's hair, should have gave him a hair.
Okay. You think Denna's just carrying around Kvothe's hairs and...
Denna also has got locks of his hair that she's just got stockpile. Every time she meets Kvothe, she takes a little clips a little piece off, and she's just got a shrine of Kvothe's hair on a wall.
I don't think that really.
We find out like how obsessed she is with Kvothe. He's like, man, I got it way wrong.
That'd be really interesting. He walked in, there's a shrine to him, especially given the fact that she constantly moves. She just puts this thing up everywhere she goes.
She's got one of those little like pieces of papers where you like, fold it in a certain way, and you do that little game where you open it with your fingers. She's got that game, and it's like, will Kvothe ask me out today? And he's the whole time he doesn't realize Denna's just been desperate for him.
He finds all these things, apparently, is what you're saying. I was going to say, though, if she did have a hair and she was going to have it doused, I have a feeling those people would be a lot more expensive than this little fat kid that, was expecting a halfpenny.
Well, she could buy her own dowsing compass. She doesn't need to hire someone who has one. She could just give it to him.
But she didn't do that, though, did she?
No, she's real stupid. Stupid.
That's how much she loves his hair. She's just hanging on to all of it. She doesn't want to waste it.
Yeah. I can't give up a single strand. Can't spare a strand.
Spare a strand. I like the Just giving another piece of the world building with how he squandered all his money on luxuries like bandages, coffee, and the materials for tonight's plan. I like the idea that bandages are luxuries.
Well, yeah, he's being sarcastic.
Well, but you could see his coffee could be. I mean, for most people, they drink coffee. It's a staple. I mean, they're not going to go without it. For him, he had to start.
Yeah, these were all necessities.
Yeah.
These were all necessities for him. But he's being sarcastic when he says that. But yeah, then he heads to the woods and meets up with Will and Sim, and then bombshell fella comes walking in with her elegant neck and shoulders bare. Her eyes were dark and her mouth was slightly redder than usual. Her long black gown was gathered close at her narrow waist and well-rounded hips. She was also displaying the most spectacular pair of breasts I'd ever seen at that point in my young life. We all gaped, but Simon gaped openly. "Wow," he said. "I mean, you were the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen before this. I didn't think there was any further for you to go." He laughed his boyish laugh and gestured at her with both hands. "Look at you. You're incredible." Sim.
Yeah, Sim makes a lot of good plays here throughout these chapters. He gets in there. And it's really interesting the way it plays out because effectively he gets in there by not really trying.
And like, he's also a perfect counter to her expectations with Kvothe, because he would never say these things openly. These are things he would never give her, like, just come out and he would never drool over her openly, or just extravagant compliments, or make it known that he's into her, even though she's constantly trying to nudge him in that direction and let him know. So Sim being openly gawking at her and telling her how great she looks and being flirtatious with her, it's got to be a much better experience than Stonewall Kvothe, who never picks up on any signal and never makes a move on his own at all.
Well, and especially for a woman who's dressing up, who doesn't hardly dress up, have an occasion to. So she's kind of putting herself out there. And Sim steps up to the plate, man. He does it. And he does it naturally. That's the key, is he's not forcing it. Typically, I think what we get in these chapters in terms of looking at it from that perspective is Sim was striking out because he was trying so damn hard.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. When he just started to be more natural and just basically be himself with her, it works. And he gets in there.
Yeah, because it helps that he doesn't think he has a chance with fella.
Yeah. Well, so like even right here when backup plan was fella does say only for you, speaking to Kvothe.
Yeah.
The fact that why she would do all this. And then when I said I owed you a favor, I never guessed you'd ask me to go on a date with another man, especially Ambrose. That was another cool thing.
And the smile went a little sour. That's an important note. Like, it wasn't just her being witty or joking or playful. She's kind of like, why didn't you ever make a move, man? What's wrong with you?
Yeah. He's a hard one for her to figure out, obviously.
Yeah, like we saw, like, fella started to notice Sim, and the last time they were together, when he read that poetry to her, that he had that fucking poem that thumped, and that got her attention. And then this progresses that more, and she starts to move on from Kvothe. She gives up on him and moves on to Sim. He becomes her runner-up, who's probably a better fit.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Kvothe has got a bright future ahead of himself.
Yeah. Well, there were a couple of things here that I thought were pretty cool little callbacks. We got the boots again. She compliments Sim's boots. Those little hobnail boots, whatever the hell they call them. He's like, they're new. But then when she, I did appreciate where she says, I don't know, it just made me think much further about it, where she says, at least I'll get dinner out of this. And I actually said that to one of my wife's friends recently when it was like she's going out on a date with this dude. She knows going to blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, well, at least, go out and get like a dinner out from this guy. It's funny because when I was younger, I never thought that way. And I had so much ridiculously like, I don't know if it's self-pride or what it is, that I wouldn't even buy a woman a drink because I was such a jackass. I was like, fuck that. She could buy me a drink because I was an idiot.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
Yeah, because it's like, that's how this shit works.
Yeah, well, it's not even that big a deal. I mean, especially back then. What are you spending, like $50? You could spend $100 and have like a nice dinner. But I mean, you could just a dinner that's not extravagant, especially back in the day. Not that expensive.
Like I mean, the expectation is like they don't have other options. Like there's not some other guy willing to do what you're not willing to do.
Yeah,
like there is someone will step up. Someone's going to step up to the plate. If you're just sitting back waiting for shit to happen, for a woman to come up and buy you a drink. I have had that happen. I had once at a restaurant, like a server came up and she's like, a lady bought you a drink. And I was like, who? And she's like, I don't know if she wants me to tell you. It's like, what?
What was the point of this?
Yeah, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Well, go tell that person stop being insane. Like, I'm interested to find out who they are. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, this was a ridiculous time too, because I had Notre Dame. I said at the beginning of the season jokingly, because I didn't expect them to have a good team, I was like, I'm not going to shave unless until Notre Dame loses. Then they started off the year like 9-0. So I go like 11 weeks, and it was just like a chin beard, but I started to look like I was Amish, and so I looked ridiculous, and it was like, this is a time when I look like this. Some girls like, yeah, I gotta give me the Amish guy.
Yeah, man. Like, so everybody's got a type. That's her type. She likes the Abe Lincoln Amish type.
Yeah, but most of the time, that does not happen. That's a very rare occurrence that a girl buys you a drink.
True. Yes. So, but again, it's also just, I don't know, it's just ridiculous in my youth the way I would, because again, it would almost be prideful. I don't need to do that. I don't need, well, okay, well then you're going to have less chances with the type of women that would be, more sought after, if you will. So, it's just stupid, but I was stupid. But yeah, I don't know. It came to mind when I saw it, because I said that to a woman. It wasn't long ago where I sort of mentioned that. I'm like, oh, I'm finally at the age where I can look at it from their perspective. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to like put up with just terrible dates, you could stack up dinners with Tinder. All the dating apps, you could just be stacking up meals. And you just have to put up with some horrible dates, but you could do it as a woman. I'm not going to do it as a man, but you could do it as a woman.
Yeah. Well, I know for a fact that this was the plan. Women going out with their friends, like, oh, we'll just get guys to buy us drinks. That's like the plan.
Yeah,
we'll just get dudes to buy us drinks, and that was probably also part of where I was at, where I was just like, well, fuck that. No, I'm not doing.
I'm not buying that. I'm not buying the girls drinks that are just looking to fucking get a drink from me and then walk away.
Yeah,
like, fuck that noise. But I will. I'll spark up a conversation. And buy that girl a drink.
Yes, I agree. That's the route.
I like though when fella does mention his boots. One of the parts I like about that is it does call back to the previous conversation where Sam mentioned that he got the new boots, and it just kind of shows how much Rothfuss considers what he's writing in, because like both of those are needless. He's just writing those things in, like show Sim is proud of his boots. Then Sim notices Fella. Fella is, she's now noticing Sim. Because we get before where she's not noticing him. She's not, putting any kind of thought into him. And now, like, she sees him and she's like, hey, you got, new boots. And so it's showing that Fella's starting to notice Kvothe. So it's a little subtle thing in there, but the reason he put the boots in there in the first place in the very beginning with Kvothe was to set up this little scene to show that she's noticing him. So I mean, he takes very very good care with showing the development of relationships and the characters and why, you know, things are progressing. So it's not in your face with it. He does things very subtly, but it's definitely there to show that Fella's starting to notice Sim, that their relationship has changed.
I think the hobnail boots, I think those are like Timberlands.
More than likely.
That's what it is.
Probably Vibrams with steel toes.
Steel toe Vibrams?
Yeah.
Man, how's that
those
work?
Would be intense.
You just got like caps? You just have caps on the toes?
Not going to have a lot of dexterity in your toes, but, you know, you're able to slam them down on shit.
Interesting. Steel-toed Vibrams. Huh. Okay. Well,
put a little claws on the front of them, like climb up walls like nothing.
Like, what do you mean like nothing? It's on your feet. What are you doing with your hands?
You just
climb upside down?
Like fucking put sticky shit on your hands.
Okay, so you're wearing a lot of things now.
Yeah.
So this is a combo. So steel toe clawed Vibrams that apparently you also wear out to wherever they are. Well, I guess they're out like in the woods. But so you rock those, and then
that's just everyday wear. That's everyday wear. You never know when you have to climb up the side of a building. That you got to be prepared. Man. Especially in their world. I mean, you really got to be prepared in their world. You never know. Like Chandrian you could see like a blue flame in a window up, 3 stories. You gotta haul ass up that building, get in there and check it out.
I get the impression that for Kvothe, true, that's kind of the way he lives his life. And maybe if you're in Tarbeen, I don't get the impression that anyone else feels like they need to randomly run up the side of a building. I would love Sender or something.
I would love if part of Kvothe's thing was he was just always walking around with like camping gear, and he's got like shit where he can just like climb up walls. And they're like, "Why? You're going to school. You never know. Got to be prepared.
Always be ready, man. Always be ready. If I'm prepared, I don't have to get ready. I'm ready."
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, bro.
When he gets back from the Fae and he's all in fucking pimp mode, he's got like his date night Kvothe hat, so just in case.
That's his representation.
Yeah.
Of like the Fae version of Kvothe. What's that hat? He's got that Kangol hat on backwards.
Yeah. Date night Kvothe.
So Devi's introduction here is great. I like that he's hearing 2 female voices and they're familiar, but he doesn't know it's Devi yet. And he's like, let him pitch a 12-color fit. Like basically saying, I don't give a shit. And then let him shit out his liver for all I care. I love that line. I think it's tremendous. I love her anger is great, man. I do also definitely like the fact that she's not ashamed of being expelled. Like when they mention it before Mola doesn't want to mention it. She's like walking on eggshells about the subject.
Yeah.
It's also pretty cool that like, so now we know Devi, we knew she was at the university, but we don't know, we would have no reason to know that Mola knows her, that although we kind of got a hint there earlier that she knew of her. But then also when we see Fella, that's pretty great with the 2 of them. But when she dances around, she showed me the ropes back when I was new here, back before she left, and Devi says proudly, expelled. Devi said proudly, I'm not ashamed of it. I like that about her,
Yeah. Yeah, she's great in this whole part. I mean, I like the, her reasoning behind it. Obviously, she's got a history with Ambrose. She says she wants a piece of him. He beats whores, but it also seems like they probably dated and he got grabby with her, or they've had some kind of run-in. It's not just how he treats other people. There's something personal there. She's got a personal hatred towards him. she doesn't spell it out, but it seems pretty clear that they've had a run-in with the past. And we get further, evidence for just how big of a douchebag Ambrose is that, he's fucking paying money to sleep with women and then beating them.
Well, I was going to also say, everybody hates this fucking guy, man.
Yeah.
we already have a lot of reasons, but when it's like everyone fucking hates this dude, like, man, he's the worst.
It's one thing when you're like a dick or you're abusing your power and that kind of stuff, but when you're just beating defenseless, people who are fucking very low on the rung of society and they're already fucking beaten down by their lives, and you beat those people, like, man, you're taking it to a whole nother level of scumbag.
You're a sadistic fuck. Like you're actually disturbed and sick, and he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big freaking douche, and then you get, I like, Kvothe apologizes to her, and she's like, well, I'll be damned. Maybe you do have half a brain in your head. And, he's like, I didn't think I could trust you. I was wrong and I regret it. It wasn't the clearest thinking I've ever done. She eyed me for a long moment. We're not friends, she said curtly, her expression still icy. But if you're still alive at the end of this, we'll talk. And then immediately going into the little fella, she brushed past me and gave fella a hug. You're all grown up. She stepped back and held fella at arm's length, looking her over appreciatively. My lord, you look like a 10-stripe Modegan whore. He'll love it.
So one of the things that I do like a lot about Debbie here is that quality of like, we're not friends, but if you're still alive, we'll talk, at the end of this.
Yeah.
Like, just, I appreciate the clear, when someone keeps it very clear where we stand. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a nice quality, especially in a character like her. Like, she's not just a sadistic, she's not just a powerful person that can fuck you over. She was extraordinarily friendly to Kvothe all the way up until that point, and she was always very clear and consistent with the approach that she had with him. And I think once or twice she tried to get over on him early, and then that came back, and Kvothe got to use it on her. But
I mean, she's hustling him the whole time, like with her minimums and stuff that she doesn't actually have minimums. She's just trying to get him to borrow an amount that he can't pay back, so that she can demand favors from him. So I mean, she's hustling him, but she's
not pulling the wool over his eyes, though. I mean,
that's just her job. I mean, that's just what she does. She's a hustler. Part of the business. Her job is being a hustler. Yeah, but she clearly started to think of Kvothe as a friend, because I mean, she's a bit
no wonder she got
that
so
he attacked
spurned.
her.
Yeah, exactly. She got super butthurt about it, and that she was spurned was the word I used. But I'll take butthurt.
I mean, just justifiably butthurt. I mean, if someone attacked me, started accusing me of things I didn't do, and then tried to attack me, I'm probably gonna be a little miffed at it. I ain't butthurt, but I'd be miffed. She gets some butthurt.
I keep saying butthurt.
I don't know. I like it.
I'll just throw it in. So I would say Kvothe was being very loose butthole. His approach to fella.
He's definitely being loose butthole.
But yeah, it's pretty great.
Debbie's is a tighter butthole than Kvothe. She was a little loose butthole, but not as loose.
The scale it's so easy to find, especially for listeners. I do love
people who have never seen that are going to be like, "What the fuck are they talking about?"
Yeah, what the hell, man? It's all about blasting nipples and how loose and tight.
Yeah.
And
sorry, you guys need to start watching better shows. And
watch the same things. Yeah, watch the same things we do. And we're not even going to tell you the show, clearly. We're just going to leave it. If Fitz was on here, he would have said it already, because he has to name what the reference is.
From...
That was Seinfeld, episode 11, just for you guys. You want to go look at it. That wasn't Seinfeld, so good luck. I love the little touches of, like, little fella. right? Because it's like she puts it in there. It's like, oh yeah, you have to imagine. We don't exactly know how long ago Debbie was there, but we have to imagine if she was, Fella would have been younger also, right? And she's younger than Debbie, so it just makes sense. And yeah, so and then they pepper in that Modigan, and then they focus on it later about Fella. But yeah, they laid on pretty thick that she's pretty attractive. Everybody's giving her the props.
Yeah, and she gives her the earrings, and they turn out to be the earrings that she got from that Denna. Were Denna's previously. Yeah. It doesn't expressly say it. Like he says, those are lovely earrings.
Definitely insinuates.
Where did you come by them? Her eyes narrowed as if she were trying to decide whether or not to take offense. A pretty young boy used them to settle his debt, she said. Not that it's any of your business. I shrugged, just curious. So he doesn't spell it out, but I mean, that is a clear implication that those were the only reason he would recognize those earrings is because they're Denna's, and someone who would need to settle a debt with a Gaelet was Jeffrey, and she had earrings, that were worth, something that Kvothe would recognize. So, you could put 2 and 2 together, but Rothfuss loves to put in things where he does not explicitly tell you what happened there, but he implies it well enough where you can figure it out if you want to, if you want to kind of just dig in a little bit to what's going on. So that was clearly what happened is Denna gave Jeffrey those earrings so he could settle his debt and get back home. So just more of an example of Denna's kind-heartedness, and she's a good person. I mean, you can dislike her for whatever reason, but she's not like some dirtbag. She's got a good heart on her. I mean, she'll try to take care of people who are down and out, who are in a bad spot. She seems to be just hustling mostly douchebags. I mean, she's not fucking rolling with cool dudes. Savoy probably the coolest one that she's hanging out with, but
hey, he's even a little sketchy. Yeah, and then also, and what's interesting about the thing with the earrings is we then get the reveal of the ring and what she used it for. So we get that basically what the cost was for him to be able to get, for her to be able to get the ring for it's not in this chapter, but
you mean the necklace? The necklace.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the necklace for the what she had to pawn for the loot. So all this stuff, or for the loot case. So all of this is for other people. I mean, these things are clearly, it's been built up enough that these are important to her, but they do also seem they're important also in the fact that it gives her agency to be able to do things of this nature, to help out Jeffrey, who's going to probably end up in the gutter somewhere if he doesn't have some help from somebody.
Yeah, I mean, she gave up her nest egg. I mean, that was a lot of money. Extravagantly expensive loot case that she paid to have made for Kvothe, and she helps Jeffrey get back home, get out of debt with Debbie. I mean, who knows how much debt he was in, but he was able to pay it off and get the fuck out of town. So yeah, I mean, she gave up a shit ton of money, and I don't know. It's not told whether she had some left over, but it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, it seems more like she gave up a lot in terms of her safety net or nest egg,
which is I think that's a large reason why I say how similar Kvothe and Denna are, because when he's got money coming to him, like, I mean, you've mentioned a bunch, most of the time he's thinking about what he could do with the money, and it's not like, how sweet my life could be. It's like, oh, think of all these things I could do for Ari or for Denna or for, he's not necessarily thinking about himself.
Typically on his list, on his more extravagant list, he has harp for Denna. That's like on the list of his more extravagant items, along with like how much tuition this buys me. And so some are for him, but he is throwing things. Yeah, but
like the things for him are all like, I could pay for laundry or get get an extra shirt and pants or something. I mean, he's not like, dude, I can start eating 4 steaks a day fucking go and start gambling, buying some hookers, get some blow.
Hookers and blow, man.
Yeah.
That's the quintessential thing to do with your winnings, right? I thought it was really funny, man. Like, so we keep getting these images of breasts, like with Debbie. She puts the earrings on her, and she's like, and they look better on you, of course. She shook her head with irritation. Good Lord, woman. If I had tits like yours, I'd own half the world by now.
Yeah.
And then Sim with you and me both, which
it's such a legendary line.
Yeah. I love, well, a couple things. So I love that, first of all, Debbie just goes, "Who's the idiot?" Which is fucking great. That line cracked me up, man. I laughed out loud reading that line. And then she also shits on Will as well in a minute. But suddenly, after Elodin points out Fella's tits, now everyone's seeing Fella's tits.
Yeah.
Seems like Elodin's got some power here, man.
Yeah.
He's helping reveal things.
It's a clear sign of Elodin's power. That's 100% what everybody takes away from this section of the book is
man.
Elodin's prowess.
Well, no, I mean, he had them both standing up there. He had Kvothe pawn at her breast, and then suddenly they're popping out. Everybody's watching. Everybody's looking at him. I mean, it's pretty powerful.
The "you and me both" is such a great line. Like Sim said enthusiastically. Like, it's such a great line. Like, that's one, like, I would imagine when you write that down, you're like, oh, that's fucking just perfect. Like, what a fucking great thing that popped into my head.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Who's the idiot? Is fucking perfect for fucking Devi and Sim. Like, that would be the reaction Devi would have to Sim. Like, Rothfuss really gets his characters. Because, if you were just, like, thinking about it, how would Devi react to Sim? Yeah, she would think he's an idiot. Especially with that. And then if she saw, like, how big of a fucking blabbermouth he is, she'd be like, well, that dude's a fucking mark.
Yeah.
So I need to get this guy drunk and fucking talking. I'm going to find out all kinds of secrets.
Yeah, the two of them don't mix well. That's for sure.
No,
or at least they wouldn't.
She would run him freaking ragged. She would work him so hard. He wouldn't even note it. He wouldn't even realize he got worked. He'd be so oblivious to it. Like, she would flirt with him, and he would just think like, "Oh man, she's into me." Like, he'd be like, it's the quintessential, like, the guy that thinks the waitress or the stripper's in love with him. Like, no, guys, she really likes me. It's like, no, man, no. She's using you, buddy.
He is that guy. He's super naive. Super naive.
Yeah. Girl like Debbie would just destroy him. And so, I like that. Who's the fucking idiot? So great.
Yeah.
But, and then I also like their, when they're going through, like, say things like, "Oh, I'd love another class, but I'm worried it'd go right to my head. He'll buy a bottle and try to pour it into you." Talking about what they're saying, different things that Fella can say to Ambrose to extend the date. And so,
and then also keep asking him about his poetry. He'll talk the time away. Like, she throws that in. Like, so she does know him well, obviously. I mean, and maybe everybody knows that he's wants to be a poet or whatever. But I like that she threw that in there as well.
Start conservative, then bring them out a little more towards the end of dinner. Lean, use your shoulders. If he keeps seeing more and more, he'll think he's getting somewhere. He'll keep him from getting grabby. And then will him with this is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen.
Well, I love the it's just the lure for a scumbag. It's it's so funny, man.
Yeah, and then Sim's line's pretty good too. Do all women in the world secretly know each other? Because that would explain a lot. It's like, nah, dude, you're just really, really bad. Somehow you end up with the fucking hottest girl in school, and probably everybody hates you after that because you're the most naive, boyish. You know what? Like, I bet Sim's too good a person to hate. Like, everybody probably is like, good for him. He's just
probably
he's too good of a
comes
dude.
down to it. What was funny though is he has that line at the Aeolian with some dude that's with Denna, where he's like, "Oh, good enough or enough to hate a man."
Yeah,
or I think it's Stanchion. Or it's Diok.
Diok getting women. But Sim doesn't succeed with women. Like they are only seeing him fail, and then they finally see him succeed in a major way. And he's such a good dude that it would be hard for anybody to really hate Sim. Like you gotta be a special kind of douchebag to hate fucking a really
a naturally
upbeat, good person.
Yeah,
he's upbeat. Like who does? I mean, like I get people can be annoyingly upbeat, but that's usually if they're fake. If they're putting on a show, then it's annoying. But if someone's like a generally upbeat, positive person, like fucking let me hang around those people all day long. I want to hang around negative people. Like Sim is ultra positive, good person. He's just naive. Don't tell him your secrets.
Well, even if that guy annoys you in the morning, which I get annoyed by those people in the morning, it doesn't make me fucking hate them. I'm not gonna then like root against the dude.
No.
But there are people out there like that though that they just constantly have a fucking rain cloud over their head, and they don't want anybody to mess with that rain cloud.
No, so. Yeah. There's definitely something to misery loves company. I mean, there is definitely something to it.
Yeah.
But so then they start making their plans, and she asks Kvothe, he's going to have Devi be the one to light the mommet on fire. And so she asks him, how far is it to his room? And he goes, a little more than a half mile, I said apologetically. The slippage, Devi cut me off with a gesture. I do my own calculations, she said sharply. And then, he's like, I'll signal you when we're in position, start with the wax, give it a hard half hour, then signal and move onto the clay, give the clay at least a half an hour. Devi snorted. With a bonfire behind me, it'll take me 15 minutes, tops. It might not be tucked into his sock drawer, you realize. It might be locked away without much air. Devi waved me away. I know my business. I made a half bow. I leave it in your capable hands. That's it? Mola demanded. You lectured me for an hour. You quizzed me. There isn't time, I said simply, and you'll be here to coach her if need be. Besides, Devi happens to be one of the handful of people I suspect might be better sympathists than me. Devi gave me a dark look. Suspect? I beat you like a red-headed stepchild. You were my little sympathy hand puppet. It was 2 span ago, I said. I've learned a lot since then. Hand puppet? Sim asked Will. Will made an explanatory gesture, and they both burst out laughing. I love that. So, Kvothe's response to it is so weak that like, but I was tired. Now, I've been practicing. Now I'm way better. I could get you now.
He didn't go with I was tired. It was just literally but I'm better now than I was then. Yeah, it's weak. It's really weak. And she hit him with the redhead stepchild. She really hit him with your insult that you love so much.
Yeah, and she separates herself from the redheads because like Kvothe tries to wrap her up in that, and like it's clear strawberry blonde. It's even mentioned in this very chapter. Strawberry blonde. That is not redhead. That's a blonde. Strawberry blonde. So yeah, she should smack him around with that, trying to rope her into that genealogy.
Well, he's not. He's the one that says strawberry blonde, right? I mean, he's the one telling the story.
He also is like, us, we need to stick together or something like that in one of the chapters. Yeah. So he's always trying to rope in the strawberry blondes into his, depravity.
Jeez. Well, I do. I mean, especially again, Debbie's great. She's so great in these where it's just like, I know what I'm doing. I don't need your help. I know exactly like what this takes and everything, which I didn't really get. I didn't understand at first I didn't get the half hour and then the hour. You see it once it's happening. Like, oh, okay. Because you piece it together, there's a timeline that needs to be adhered to some degree for them to be able to execute everything they're doing. And that's one thing that definitely...
It's also like the way to think about it is she's trying to set this thing on fire, but she can't see it.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know when it's set on fire. So when he's like, give it a good 30 minutes, he's like, enforce this link for 30 minutes. And she's like, I don't need 30 minutes. I can do this. I can, focus in this for 15 minutes. Focus on wax for 15, then I can move on to clay. And so, like, she's doing it blind. So she doesn't even know when she set it on fire. So that's why there's a time period in there. It's not that it takes 15 minutes to set it on fire. It's that she's got to put that much energy into it and that much concentration into it that she's got to at least do it that long just to make sure that it does catch on fire.
Yeah. There's also a nice little callback here with the ointment where he says, but if you mix it with piss, it turns into candy.
Yeah.
And delivers it deadpan, which is kind of surprising coming from Sem. Delicious candy. And he just nods, Kvothe nods seriously, yes, sir. I like the moment of Mola stares in confusion. Devi pointedly ignored us and began piling wood on the fire. Where I've been in that situations so many times where my friends and I are telling inside joke shit. Kind of like the loose and tight butthole we just did.
Yeah.
Where people around us are like, what the fuck? Like, have no clue what the hell
inside jokes are the
about.
best. Inside jokes are the best. It's a good barrier to entry.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, well, that also pays off. So that was a callback from, I don't know, one of the previous chapters. And then that also pays off once we're in Ambrose's rooms as well, where he gets to kind of mention that with piss being candy.
Yeah. I like how, because they really do this like a heist. I mean, like it's an interesting story within a story. I mean, and a lot of this book is stories within stories. It's a number of different stories, and that, I mean, that's partially what the series is about. But I like the way it's set up. It's different. It's not like the rest of the book. It is really set up like there's, a team effort and they got all these plans and there's all these, different aspects of it that all have to play in together. It's interesting. It's extremely entertaining the way he does this. And then you get the aspect of he's been going to this bar for, what did it say, 2 span? So what is that? A span is what? 11 days?
Yeah.
So
like,
22 days. Yeah. So basically 3 weeks our time.
And he's doing it. Well, and clearly he's doing it, but he's also saying making a show of trying to climb the social ladder. So he's doing it with intention to be seen. And we know Kvothe well enough that he's doing something to be seen. It's effective. He's doing it in a way that is definitely going to be effective. There's a little piece here too that I thought was funny in telling about Kvothe, a bit of a hypocrite when Kvothe thinks about what rich people think about.
Yeah.
Where he's saying like, how to properly beat the stable boy, I guess, or techniques for chasing the chambermaid around the estate, which is really funny because, and why I say it's a bit of a hypocrite is what do people think about the Rue? I think they're all thieves and liars and murderers and all this stuff.
It's consistent with his
have money.
Yeah, it's consistent with his personality, though. I mean, he's very dismissive of things he doesn't understand.
Yeah,
and so he's definitely doesn't understand money. I mean, but he's also, because you are, it's understandable if you're the Rue and you're getting kicked on by society. Like that mayor in that fucking town thinks he's fucking king shit and the Rue are garbage, even though the Rue, that specific Rue group is well above this dude's station in terms of, not notoriety, but prestige.
And
they're much more prestigious than him. And and they probably got way more money than him. And so, I mean, there's just no way this guy is, higher status than them. But, because he's the mayor of the town, like he sees himself that way. So, like, it's understandable. Like, if you're in the Rue and you're looked down, you're spat on, you're probably spat on by a lot of nobles. So it's understandable that he develops an animosity towards the rich, even if it is also it's overly done and it's too simplistic. And there are pitfalls to having money, but there's also pitfalls to not having money. There's a lot of people who don't have money that turn into, like have problems like he does with stealing shit. Not the best character trait. And so like there's pros and cons to both of them. And so, there's bad people in both groups. There's definitely in a realistic world, not all rich people are bad, not even most of them are bad, and not all poor people are bad, not even most of them. There's just shithole people in every group. And they all there's different pitfalls to having money and to not having money. There's reasons why you can become jaded or a bad person. It's just every type of circumstance gives you the opportunity to be a shit person.
Well, and then for his character, his age, his background, it all makes sense. But also, when you see a poor person, if he's looking at a poor person, he can at least feel bad for them. He can have some sympathy, some pity for them. He doesn't have any reason to pity the rich person. No. Right? Especially not in this context. He's just like, fuck this guy because he has what I don't have. Again, makes sense for his age, makes sense for where he is in life at this point. He doesn't know this person, so that's why I say it's close-minded they do, and it's judgmental. And
Rothfuss does a good job coming up shortly after this, not too many chapters after this. He does a good job of pointing this out when he's talking about like Will stops him from bringing up something about Sim's family, and he's like, don't fucking bring that up because Sim has got the pressure from his father. His father wanted him to go into a certain profession, and his father looks down on him becoming an arcanist, and Kvothe is just flabbergasted. Sim doesn't have the same pressures as him, but he has pressures.
Yeah.
Which not the same
doesn't
thing.
Understand.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't.
I would rather have money than not have money, but it doesn't mean that you suddenly become, the fucking happy-go-lucky, everything works. You're still a human being. You still struggle.
And you still, I mean, that's an uncomfortable situation to be in where you're under somebody's thumb. And in this case, he's under his father's. And then, comes with that, he's got, anxieties about it. He's going to have baggage about it, which is why, Will's like, don't ask him about that. Don't bring that up. But again, for somebody that doesn't have that situation, it's hard to appreciate. But, again, like Kvothe not having anyone, that's probably worse than having money and a family, but having a family that doesn't respect what you do and then looks down upon you for it. That's a shitty position to be in as well. It's just a different type of shitty.
Yeah. Yeah, and Rothfuss does a good job in subtly showing those kind of dynamics and the different struggles different people go through, and it's not, he does not write in a simplistic way. He's not overly broad. Whatever his views on the world are, he doesn't let them, paint the story in a simplistic way where it's not like real preachy that he's trying to preach something. He's just trying to create a realistic world, and he usually does a bang up job. And these are kind of some of those examples where you see.
This is a great example of it. It's a bad example though for what you've been trying to push, that Kvothe marry Sue, because this doesn't fit with it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it really, threw an arrow into to that theory for me. Poked a hole in it.
I like we've gotten this before where we get like the taste of the places he likes. Like White Anchors is a place that he likes, which would be more my kind of thing. Or even the Aeolian, because of how great the music is, but also feels like there's a nice vibe. Threp's a big part of that, but also Diok and Stanchion seem like, pretty down to earth people. And that's actually a really great example of someone who has money who's not a piece of shit is Threp, right? Yeah. Threp's great. Threp's tremendous. Now, is he going to give Kvothe as much like respect and open arms if he's not a tremendous musician? Probably not, but he's probably also, he doesn't seem to be the guy that's just shitting on people for no reason, right? He seems to be a guy that would be
more likely he would be shitting on other nobles than
Well, he makes fun of them, right? He loves making fun of them.
Yeah, I mean, he helped write Jackass, but Yeah, and I mean, I too, I'm with Kvothe in like that kind of bar. That would not be my
Yeah.
scene at all. I mean,
Yeah.
they could all be the greatest people in the world. It's just they're living in a different world than me, and so
Yeah.
it's not. I don't relate to the world, whether they're good or bad people. It's just not my fucking style. I don't.
It's more
It's not my thing.
Why it's not my thing. It seems like it's more about formality. It's more like we're all showing that we can be formal rather than like we're coming here to just relax. You know what I'm saying? Like a clear sign of that to me is, the musician's more pleasing to the eye than the ear. Well, that's what yes, it's nice to have the person playing the music also being attractive, but the music is more important to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always funny to me. Like, I collect vinyl records, and somebody like people would be like talk about the cover art and how great the condition is of the sleeve it comes in. I'm like, I don't fucking give a shit. I'll pay much less for a sleeve that's bent. I just want to listen to the music. That's like what I give a shit about. It's not about the show. I still have appreciation for the cover art, but
and whatever floats whatever floats your boat, like whatever you're into, it's just that's not my thing. I'm not into that. The flaunting and the trying to impress people is just not. It's just not my thing. I mean, everybody's got their different quirks and different things that they like, but yeah, that's just, what he's talking about. It's 100% not my thing at all.
Well, and it also is like, so what's the reason you're going out? That's the other thing. If I'm going out to a bar, it's not for this. I mean, I'm married, I have kids, I'm not trying to like meet sophisticated women in a formal setting. That's not that's not the utility of what I'm going for. So yeah, that's also would be why, this wouldn't appeal to me either. I love these little subtle touches of like playing cards, but not really playing cards. You know what I mean? Like putting us in Kvothe's seat, his situation where he's putting on a bit of an act, and he's an actor. And he does such a fucking great job that he's legitimately startled when someone starts yelling fire, which is like great. So like he's so good that he fools himself basically, or he got so lulled himself into such a appearance of being nonchalant that he actually does get startled when who did bring in?
Basil, yeah. But right before he kind of lulls himself into stupor, like I like where he's like, I felt a slight tickle in the corner of my eye and reached to rub it away with my fingers, catching myself at the last second with my hand upraised. Willem stared at me from across the table, his eyes alarmed, gave his head a small, firm shake. I went motionless for a moment, then slowly lowered my hand, because he's got the chemical on his hand preventing his fire. So just that little, he's just like bored playing cards, and he almost like fucking rubs his eye with that shit. He's just not, he's not thinking. And then, then he's like, I lulled myself into, such a stupor that when Basil started screaming fire, it took me a second for it to register. But then, then he snaps to, goes into hero mode, but a slightly different hero mode because it's all an act, but he still is playing the role of a hero.
Yeah, it's great, man. That's the thing about Rothfuss, man. He's so good with the little things, the little touches. Like, even just for instance, when it gets started, Basil comes in, yells fire, fire. Everyone in the pony froze for a moment. This always happens when people are startled and confused. They take a second to look around, smell the air, and think things like, did he just say fire? Or fire where? Here? And I mean, again, it puts you in that entire scene, right? Instead of you were with Kvothe, now you're in that entire room, and you see Kvothe leap to his feet, makes a show of looking around wildly, searching out a fire, but he knows where it's at, right? So he fucking takes off and goes up there, but does a good job of not. If he just made a beeline, it would be suspicious.
Yeah, and I like the aspect that they bring in the siege stone.
Yeah, that was great.
And he explains like how they came across it when they were searching the archives for the gram, for the information on the gram, and then they came across the siege stone, which allows you to like just blow down a door by just pushing it up against it. It's like putting a battery, taking a battering ram to a door, but it's just a little stone, and all you gotta do is touch the door. So I like the fact that, he uses that, breaks down his door, and then he has that little moment of where people are looking at him, and he's like, I wonder what kind of stories are going to come out of this. One of the stories we've already heard, was in the bar, and they're like, I heard he could, break down a door with just, his bare hand, just one hand, stave in a door. And it's from this. This is that moment where it's like, you get a lot of the shit he does is extremely heroic, and it's justifiable that he's obviously extraordinary, but a lot of the myth surrounding him is tricks, it's acts, it's plays, it's manipulations.
It's so great. I mean, that's what brings so much more realism to it. That it is, he uses this thing, and like, why doesn't he bleed when he gets whipped multiple times? He does the same thing, right? It's the null root or whatever. So these are tricks, and it helps his mystique grow. But even just the little things that Rothfuss puts in, like he staves in the door, there were startled gasps and exclamations from everyone in the hallway. He rushes inside, or I rushed inside, trying desperately to keep the manic grin off my face. It's those little things, man, where it's like, you're reminded there are other people there, and there's a reaction. So they see it, and they even react to it like, whoa, shit, that shouldn't have happened. This guy's, Billy Badass, basically breaking down this door.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, when he was in there trying to rob Ambrose, and he broke the key off, they were like slamming shit into that door. And so he just comes in there and just like, boom, puts a shoulder into it and just blows the nips off the door, and goes rushing in, and everybody else is fucking shitting their pants.
I love that. So when he comes in, hello, I shouted, is everyone all right? I pitched my voice carefully, bold but concerned. No panic, of course. I was, after all, the hero of this scene.
Yeah,
so
so
like
great.
You said,
he's treating it like a scene. It's so great. And I like the aspect of, like, he sees the fire in the cabinet, and he's like, apparently Ambrose had been keeping the mommet in his sock drawer. After he's like, he's not likely to be keeping this in his sock drawer. But yeah, no, he's got that room pretty secured. I mean, he's not Ambrose.
It's true. Yeah,
doesn't need to go above and beyond when he's got shit set up that will lock someone into his room if they try to break in. But and I like the part where he's throwing the drawers out the window that are on fire, and he's like, I smelled burning hair and hoped I hadn't lost my eyebrows. I didn't want to spend the next month looking constantly surprised. Like, when I read that, I'm always thinking, is like, man, that would have been the perfect time to bring Abenthy back in. Like, Kvothe walking out with his eyebrows singed off, and Abenthy comes walking in, he's like, samesies! My boy! You took after me!
Dude, that would be so great if, he thinks about it, and then he hears something, turns, and there's Abenthy. And they
both raise their eyebrows, but they don't have eyebrows, so neither of them can tell how surprised they are. And like, we looked at each other. I felt surprised, but and he seemed like he might be surprised, but we couldn't tell because neither of us had eyebrows.
So he looked a little shocked. Maybe he was shocked.
Benny no brows.
Maybe he was shocked. He could have been mad. I'm not real sure. Yeah. So we rubbed our foreheads together.
That became our thing from then on. From then on, every time we saw each other, we rubbed eyebrows.
So bring in that 1980s soft saxophone music again. They just have these lovely moments.
That would be one of the great montages. Is there's a scene where Kilvin in his leotard is running with Kvothe in his arms, and Abenthy is like running beside him, and then Kvothe and him turn to each other and rub eyebrows.
They just he stops on the way to the Medica. They just rubs eyebrows with him.
In motion as they're running, and it's like Kvothe can't speak to tell Abenthy he's okay, but he just turns and rubs his eyebrows against Abenthy's eyebrows to let him know that it's going to be okay.
Oh, man. But by the way, every time you say rub eyebrows, they're not rubbing their eyebrows. They're rubbing the spot above their eyes where their eyebrows are.
Yeah. But yeah, and then so they find the mommet, and it turns out it wasn't a wax mommet. I think we've probably been saying a wax mommet. I always forget about this, but the mommet clearly was made of clay. And so, like, when he pulls out a drawer, you can hear it banging around. And then they throw it out the window. And downstairs, I mean, they had this set up perfectly. Sim is down there. And as soon as he's throwing out drawers, Sim is just smashing fucking shit.
Well, so a couple things there. One, I always picture a mommet as wax. And because typically it is. Yeah. So I have been probably saying that. And I just picture it that way. Also, when he throws him down, he like yells something to indicate that he's throwing down.
That's later.
Stone. Oh, okay, yeah.
That's later, when the last thing he gives him a signal before the last thing he look out down below or something like that, and that's a signal for Sim to pick up his siege stone.
Well, I was going to mention, like you were mentioning earlier, how it's so well planned out. Yeah, it makes sense. Like, because the first time he did this, he realized real quick. They didn't have any fucking plan at all. All they had was sticks. Like that was, I mean, virtually that was like it. They did have, they had him going somewhere. They had a fake note, but it was a note. It was sticks and a couple lookouts. That was it. And he got hurt bad, and he's been getting hurt bad ever since. So,
and I like that he mentions that it's not mere pettiness that Sim's down there stomping on his shit. And like,
by the way, he mentions his new hobnail boots again.
Yeah,
he throws that in there. I think, dude. So this
perfect.
This is here's what Rothfuss wants from these books. Clearly, he wants everyone walking around in fucking cloaks so he can wear his.
Yeah,
and he loves these hobnail boots, which apparently I don't know if these are like. Well, I said Timberlands earlier, but it's like a special type of hobnail. Which maybe you're right. Maybe it's like a steel toe Vibram look, or it's like a steel heel or some shit. I don't know. Well, hobnail. What is hobnail? I should have probably Googled that.
Lots of pockets. But
little trinkets.
I like that though that they mentioned that. 'Cause, like, my mind immediately it doesn't even go to that it would be pettiness, because I'm thinking, you got to stomp that mommet. But like with the wax, I guess I don't even consider like, okay, you just melt the wax, but with clay you couldn't melt it, so. If you just throw the shit out there and you don't destroy it, then Ambrose is still going to have it. So Sim's down there to serve a function. It's not just pettiness. But I do
the reason
like he adds the fact, like, then I grabbed the curtains, and that, that was to protect my hands. Again, that's not mere pettiness. Petty was when I kicked the chamber pot on my way back to the bureau. That's a fucking little great line. He's like, I did this. It wasn't pettiness. And when I did this, not pettiness. Pettiness was when I kicked over his shitter.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not above that. I would do it.
Fuck no. I would definitely do that. That would have been one of the first things I did. I would have done all kinds of petty shit.
I love the way he has done that in the past. Remember, like, didn't he
he like uncinches his pants.
So they'd break, so they'd rip
the
open.
flue off the chimney. He was doing all kinds of petty shit. If he had time, he'd be doing all kinds of petty shit. So I don't know what he's fronting about, but at least he still mentions I fucking kicked over his fucking shitter all over his floor, all over his rug.
Yeah, it was not delicious candy on his rug.
Yeah,
I do definitely. I love the way, the way Rothfuss did that was great, and he kind of leads in with saying that Sim was smashing things to flinders like a boy splashing in puddles. So it insinuates that he enjoys it, and then you get the petty thing. So it's like, oh, okay, so they're at least having some fun with it, and then they talk about how much fun they had with it.
It's fun to read, and then Ambrose coming in, what in the name of God is going on here? Get out! What are you doing in my rooms? He demanded. What? I asked and looked around. These are your rooms? Keeping the proper amount of dismay in my tone wasn't easy, as my voice was rough with smoke. I just burned myself saving your things? "Get out of here, you filthy, thieving rue," he spat venomously. "I swear if anything's missing, I'll bring the constable down on you. I'll have the iron law and see you hanged." "Good job, Ambrose," Willem said sarcastically. "You caught him. He stole your fire." One of the onlookers chimed in. "Yeah, make him put it back." Such a great Will. Will's got some great lines.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah,
that's so perfect, and it's great also that these onlookers are all like, "What the fuck's wrong with this dude? Like, this dude just saved your shit." You know, that's what it appears like, and that's nobody knows any better. So
Will's perfect. Got the perfect amount of sarcasm, because like sarcasm can obviously be overused, where it's like people think sarcasm is always funny, but it's more like it's to fucking cut someone down. Like it doesn't work as well. Like as just be you can just be a smart ass with it, but Will's funny with it because it's used in most of the time it's used in the proper places where it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's especially hilarious here because it brings the situational awareness. Like, dude, are you fucking joking? Like, everybody sees this for what it is except you. You're just a scumbag.
And it's great because Will and Sim and Ambrose know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
And so everybody else on the outside is like, "Yeah, fuck you, Ambrose."
Yeah.
And he turns the crowd against Ambrose, but realistically, they all know what the three know what the fuck's going on. So it's a special little dig at Ambrose, and this is likely the combination of Fella, Sim, Will, and Kvothe in this situation has probably put a target on all their backs with Ambrose. He's not going to forget this. He definitely does not. He's not outside the loop. He knows what the fuck they were doing in his room.
Yeah.
And so,
clearly. Yeah. And so obviously he knows I guess he probably doesn't know about Mola or Debbie, but no. He's going to connect it with Fella most likely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she just suddenly is willing to go out with this dude after she's been. Well, I guess she hadn't been shutting. What we've seen is that Kvothe saves her in that previous scene.
He knows. He's not an idiot. He would know why Fella fucking, picked that night. He's not an idiot. Yeah. He's going to put it together. And like they have that moment when they lock eyes and Ambrose looks at where the mommet was and his eyes go wide as he fucking figures it out. So those four put a huge target on their back in this situation. But while it's happening before the retribution that is likely coming in book 3, it's fucking great. It's fucking very enjoyable to read. This dude gets smoked. And then, after he's like, "Get out," Ambrose shouted, red-faced and furious, "and take that filthy shim with you, or I'll give both of you the thrashing you deserve." I watched the bystanders stare at Ambrose, appalled by his behavior. I gave him a long, proud look, playing the scene for all it was worth. "You're welcome," I said with injured dignity, and shouldered past him, jostling him roughly out of the way. "Candles are dangerous things," I said. I looked over my shoulder and met Ambrose's eyes. "Honestly, boy," I said to him, "I don't know what you were thinking. You'd think a member of the Arcanum would have much more sense." Throwing back the same exact line that he said to Kvothe when he tricked Kvothe into bringing the candle in. So, I mean, they both know exactly what the fuck happened here. And, they're throwing it in Ambrose's face. And he fucking picked his pocket here too. So he's definitely amped up the retribution that he's going to face from Ambrose.
Yeah, the when he bumps into him, it seems a bit petty. We get why, what that was, but yeah, the callback to the candle and the archives is great, man. Where he just throws it right back at him because you fucked him over. I got you back. Took a while. And obviously there's a lot more going on here too, but yeah, I got your ass back.
Yeah, and then they meet back in the woods, and Sim is rolling in with Fella, and clearly they're starting to develop a budding relationship.
So there was a second too when she got all dressed up and she left before they all started doing their thing in the woods to go on her date. Sim did walk with her as well. So he took, and then he gave her something, talked to her a bit. So yeah, he's been working in, and now he comes back with her early, met her on her way back as a gentleman would, right? Yeah, he's getting in there, man. It's getting in there.
Yeah. I didn't find Fella's performance as impressive as they did with her, and dinner was about what you would expect, Fella minute, but the second part made it all worthwhile. Second part, Moa asked. On our way back, Sim took me to see the wreckage at the pony. I stopped to have a word with Ambrose. I never had so much fun. I was perfectly huffy. She was, Simmons said. It was brilliant. Fella faced Sim and set her hands on her hips. Run off on me, will you? Sim screwed her face up in an exaggerated scowl and gestured wildly. Listen to me, you daft bent, he said in a fair imitation of Ambrose's Finnish accent. My rooms were on fire. Don't lie to me. You ran off to be with some whore. I've never been so humiliated in my life. I never want to see you again. That's a ridiculous performance. Like, he would see, like, unless Ambrose is the ultimate buffoon, he would see through that, once he calms down and has a chance to reflect. That would be an easy thing to see through, that she's clearly fucking bullshitting. Because it's over the top. It's ridiculous. Like, are you kidding me? My room is fucking on fire. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's a bit,
and like Ambrose is just running out of dinner with Fella to go be with some whore. Like, what?
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. Not rational. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense at all. But it does give Fella and Sim this chance to go back and forth and flirt with each other out in the open, which does definitely work. And he smashes it again with that poetry that she likes so much.
Thump so hard, man. Thumping.
She loves it.
Fast came our Fella, fiery eyes flashing, crossing the cobblestones, strength in her stride. Came she to Ambrose, all ashes around him. Grim was his gazing, fearsome his frown. Still Fella feared not, brave was her. And he pusses out on, he was going to say bosom.
Yeah. And he couldn't do it.
And I love, again, Will coming out like a champ in this episode. Ever the good friend, Willem stepped in with a distracting question. What is that pause you keep doing? He asked. It's like you can't catch your breath. I asked that too, Phil said, smiling. It's something they use in Abenthy verse, Sim explained. It's a break in the line called Caesura, which is the same thing that Kvothe names his sword.
Yeah. Yeah, that jumps out when you see it. And it's supposed to be, they name it Caesura, right? And he names it Caesura?
Yeah. I think it comes up in one of the, a great theory that I've come across. I'm not going to bring it up now, but I'll bring it up when it comes into play. But the break in an Abenthy verse, I think there's some significance, hidden within that. The fact that he names a sword that's what it means. I think there's some significance there. So it's something we'll definitely cover a little more in depthly once it gets his sword.
But yeah, so twice here, Will steps up and distracts with a question rather than, because Debbie's about to fucking lay into Sim and embarrass him for not being able to say bosom. And then he comes up with, what's that pause? And they talk about the poetry. And then, Kvothe starts ripping on him because of his own hang-ups about poetry not being music and how music is, basically just better than poetry. And Willem steps in again and says, lightens it all up, says, I dropped a poem in the hallway outside Ambrose's rooms. It was an acrostic that spoke of his powerful affection for Master Hem.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's a funny
idea. Sim is dropping girl clothes into his drawers at the same time. It's like fucking great, man. Like that, but they owned Ambrose so hard here. Like, I mean, the retribution is going to be great. I think that's why I think, eventually one of these dudes is getting killed. Sim or Will. I would imagine so. Sim, I think he's going to get killed. I don't think he survives.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense because of because of who he is, and it would hurt more,
Yeah.
which makes sense, literarily. I don't know.
Yeah.
However you say that in terms of the story.
But yeah, then it finishes off with, they filled Devi in on, what exactly was going on. So it gives her a little more reason to forgive Kvothe once she hears that. And also we get let in on the fact that when he picked Ambrose's, we get let in that he picked Ambrose's pocket, and that's where he came up with the slip that he's going to use to get Denna's ring back. So fucking came out fucking like gangbusters, not only destroyed the mommet, but got the slip for the ring, which was the initial point of the whole thing.
Got the slip, got the and fucked him over, made him look like a fool, and
rubbed
got
shit all in his face, just like a little fucking dog, just rubbing his face in his own shit, and literally kicked his shit all over his room. Yeah, you're right.
And got 6 talents, something like that.
Yeah. Worked out. It was a nice little heist,
but did ruin another shirt.
Yep. Yeah, that's the downside. Always ruining shirts.
They when they point that out, that was another detail. They even wrapped his hand. I thought that was great because he didn't need to wrap his hand, but it would have looked odd. He comes out of there, he's not hurt at all. So that little gesture that does show. I mean that they really thought it through quite thoroughly. Again, those little things that Rothfuss put in. Yeah, it's good stuff.
But yeah, that's it on that chapter, that fantastic chapter.
Yeah, that is all I had as well.
All right, so chapter 34 is titled Baubles. In this chapter, Kvothe gets Denna's ring back from the jeweler and finds out Denna had sold her necklace to get him his loot case. And then he proceeds to search for Denna to no avail. And starts off, I wonder if the boy had ever found her with my message, or if he had simply given up or dropped it in the river or eaten it. He's not a big fan of this kid.
No, yeah. I think does it start? Yeah, I think it starts with, so the next morning I decided my mood was too good to spoil it with the inevitable madness of Elodin's class. So still not seeing it. Still not seeing the value. The stop grabbing at my tits thing, I thought maybe would have helped it sink in. And especially now that he's shown him boobs, right? Now that he knows what boobs are and he's seeing fellas' boobs, now that he appreciates breasts, you think he would have some respect for the class, but apparently that wasn't enough.
Yeah, didn't it talk about Elodin's jackassery? Is that not this chapter?
That was on the previous one, I believe.
No, because that's...
Maybe it's on the next one.
Yeah, it must be the next one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the next one starts off the same way. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, he skips the class. 2 days later, I was heading off hoping some honest work would clear my head, make me better able to tolerate 2 hours of Elodin's jackassery. So yeah, he's still just shitting all over the class. Not getting anything out of it.
No, yeah. I like that aspect of it, is, how oblivious he is to it. I mean, it's good for his character that, that he's got some major fucking flaws, and they're consistent, and they're, they show up constantly, and just how he's just very dismissive of anything that he's not, that's not clear. He's not a big fan of subtle.
Yeah, if he doesn't understand it, he's kind of shitting on it, it seems, or he's not willing to spend any time on it whatsoever.
Yeah, and then he goes and gets the ring, and he finds the necklace. He sees the necklace and starts talking to the guy, and he's like, is it your work? I asked. The jeweler gave a dramatic sigh. Alas, I cannot claim that distinction. A young woman brought it in several span ago. She had more need of money than adornment, it seems, and we came to an arrangement. How much would you like for it? I asked as casually as possible. He told me it was a staggering amount of money, more money than I'd ever seen in one place. Enough money that a woman might live comfortably in Imre for several years. Enough money for a fine new harp. Enough for a lute of solid silver, or if she desired a case for such a lute. Enough money to live in Imre for 7 years. That is how much she cares about Kvothe. Like,
yeah, I like the spin on the motif that he typically uses, where he has this list of things that he could purchase or that he could do with money. In this case, it's what Denna could have done instead of buying him the loot case. And dude, it's crazy too, because we still get, I think it might not be the next chapter, but the one after, he still has his friends trying to convince him, dude, she's into you.
Yeah.
He's just not seeing it. It's like, dude, and they even bring up, like, dude, that loot case, that was a big deal, right? I mean, he should see it here, like, clearly, man. I don't know what else. So I guess couple that with he's just not, Loden can't break through to him no matter what he's trying to do. She
sacrificed her ability to live for several years in comfort in a fucking nice place to get him a loot case. Like, I mean, that is a major sacrifice.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, couple that with, well, not even necessarily Loden's class, but the fact that he had been emotionally shut off in Tarbeen for such a long time. He's not at the point where he can be, interconnected with someone on that sort of a level that you would be with a woman that you're in a relationship with, apparently, because there's a wall here, man, and he's just not able to see through it. He can't fathom, which is nuts, because this is a massive gesture. To not see it is you're miscasting the gesture.
Yeah, and I don't know what you're looking at. Throw on top the times where she's like, "Dude, you could make some type of move." Like, it's much easier for me to understand Denna not realizing how into her that Kvothe is. It's much harder for that Kvothe doesn't see it. I mean, he sees it in a sense, like it could be that, but what if it's not? And it's like, oh, dude, you got to get over that, man.
Well, yeah. So it's that coupled with just how tremendous his maybe it's like the after effects of being behind the doors. I don't know, man. I don't know how else you could be this. I mean, he did see his whole family murdered, and he went into a shell of his own existence, but he's still capable of emotion and understanding emotion. I mean, he wrote these songs that move people. Now and we'll get to it, but there does also seem to be magic in his music, which we've talked about before. And we've talked about this many times before, how it's definitely more understandable that Denna doesn't see the way that Kvothe sees her. But the flip of the circumstance of Kvothe not seeing what she feels for him is, it's hard to fathom.
Yeah.
Which is what makes me think there's more there. There's like this residual effect of what happened from being behind the doors. Maybe there's something you never get back.
Yeah, I mean, his time in Tarbeen clearly broke him in a lot of respects. He's not the same kid. Take away what happened to his family and what happened in Tarbeen, he's not that fearful of taking a risk with Denna. It's because of what happened to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that's where it gets to the point where it's like, when do you realize it's not a risk? Like, what else does she have to do?
Yeah.
Like how much clearer does she have to make it? And the fact that, and that's the nuance that's so great about what Rothfuss is doing here. He's using a person like her who's not willing to just boldly come out and lead this dude by the hand because she has a checkered past, right? She has self-esteem issues. So she can't just take it full on and be the full support system. It's great. I mean, that's why it's frustrating between them. But again, there's a lot to this this broken kid that is Kvothe.
Yeah, and then he goes looking for her, and you get my loot case hung heavier on my shoulder now that I knew what she'd given up to pay for it. So one good turn deserves another, and I hope the return of her ring would help balance things between us. And I like how it ends. You would be amazed at how many inns and boarding houses there are, even in a smallish city like Imre, just subtly hinting at that he went to all of them.
Yeah.
He went to every single inn to try to find her.
I like the little touch, and we know that people find her attractive, but I like little touches like when he talks to the guy at the Barrel and Boar. She waited for a long while. I remember thinking, who would keep a woman like that waiting? Yeah. So again, just leading into like she's definitely someone who's turning heads when she's walking through, which we've seen actively, but it is reiterated time and time and time again, which is important because that tells you those ears, man. Those ears are catching a lot of people's eyes.
Fine ass ears, man.
That's what everybody's going
for. Supermodel ears.
How are you gonna cast that? Well, you tell me. If you cast this movie, who's the one? Who's the girl that has the hot ears that you know of?
Man, it's a tough one. I think I would just go with like an actress who's got ears.
That's a good way to start. I would not go with an actress who has ears, who has a history of fighting in the UFC.
No.
I wouldn't go with
that.
No,
you definitely like cauliflower ears, like out. You're out. Get no chance. You're just like no cauliflower ear girls.
What if actually that's what they look like in this world? What if the more cauliflower-y, the hotter it is in this world? We don't know. Yeah. We don't know.
That's what Bass sees as perfect. He's got a huge thing for cauliflower.
But the more bubbly, the better, apparently.
He's like, I just love vegetables.
I love human, organs, appendages to look like vegetables.
Yeah. Like, man, I just got I'm a huge fan of cauliflowers. And so, when I see a girl with cauliflower ears, she's hot. I get it.
It doesn't literally look like cauliflower.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, you're making it sound like it literally.
No, it literally looks like they got cauliflower coming out their ears.
Coming out their ears.
Yeah. Why would they call it that if it didn't look exactly like that? You don't make any sense. You say a lot of stupid shit.
There's that Biggie line. Putting carrots in my baby girl's ear.
Yeah.
Is that like this?
That's weird. Why would you stick carrots in your baby girl's ear? Like, that doesn't even make any sense.
I don't know, man. Carrots are good for you, but I think you're supposed to consume them. Orally.
Eat them. You put them in your mouth, not in your ears. And especially you don't stick them down your baby girl's ears. Fucking weirdo.
Maybe that's why he's not around anymore.
But the next chapter we get is chapter 35, titled Secrets. In this chapter, Kvothe heads to the fishery and he runs into Nina, who turns out to be the girl who's been asking about him. And she made a painting of 1/3 of the piece of pottery from the Mauthen Farm with the Chandrian and also, it turns out, the Amir on it.
Yeah, there's a lot more in this than what I had obviously this looms really large over the stories because we get so much here about the Amir specifically that we wouldn't have outside of this chapter. So I have quite a few questions. I was going to say just the introduction where we first see her. We don't know who she is. We have our suspicions, but as Kvothe watches her, it gives us that reminder of how good he is at watching body language and how he sees how someone, I like how he described underneath the hood, her face was a startling mix of excitement and anxiety. And then as she's walking, he kind of notices in particular an awkward stiffness of someone trying desperately to be nonchalant. That's pretty great. I like the way Rothfuss describes it, and it's a character trait that is definitely there with old Kvothe.
I love the way the chapter starts off with the two days later. I was heading off to the fishery, hoping some honest work would clear my head and make me better able to tolerate 2 hours of Loden's jackassery. Like I got a meme that I've posted on Instagram and on Twitter. If you just search on Twitter 2 days later, I was heading off to the fishery. If you search that, I'm sure you'll see the tweet and you'll see the meme of Kvothe saying "teach me" and Loden acting like a jackass, which this line perfectly fit with that meme that I had created. So yeah, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you haven't already. What are you doing, you idiots?
There are some good examples there from what you say of like, teach me, blue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's the subtle underlayering, but yeah, if you're looking at it from Kavothe's perspective, I mean, yeah, the guy's acting like a fucking jackass.
Well, I like that. And then also, teach me, jump off this roof. Which he does. And then, I mean, yeah, teach me. Watch me slide across the floor in my socks.
Yeah. He's just doing so many stupid things that, yeah, it's pretty freaking perfect. But yeah, and then, so yeah, she brings it up to him. He finds out it's her. And, I had a drummer of a time tracking you down. I spend so much time here. My ma thinks I have a beau at the university. She said the last almost shyly, her mouth making a curve. Don't worry, she said. I ain't let anyone know I was coming to see you. Her bright eyes went dark with anxiety, like a pool when the sun goes behind a cloud. I know it's safer that way. It was only when her face went dark with worry that I recognized her. She was the young girl I'd met in Draben when I'd gone to investigate rumors of the Chandrian. Nina, I said, what are you doing here? Looking for you. I love that. Looking for you. What do you think I'm doing here?
Damn. Yeah, it's pretty interesting how obviously she was in quite a state when he helped her. She believes he helped her, but the fact that she goes out of her way to find him and to give him this information, I mean, it's fucking massive for him. He spends all his time, or spends a tremendous amount of time looking for information, and then this little girl happens to be channeled to some, luckily, and has access to this information. It's astounding,
Yeah, and for whatever reason, his amulet actually worked for her, because she said she was having bad dreams, but when she started sleeping with the amulet that he gave her, and she started saying the lines from whatever the poetry or the play that he gave her, like the bad dreams went away.
Well, I thought she was just saying her prayers. He did
her prayers were the lines that he told her. That's what she means by I started saying my prayers. I'm fairly certain like he was like, say these words, and she said those words. I'm fairly certain. I don't. It could be that she's just talking about her normal prayers.
I
would be surprised if she's not referring to the specific lines that he gave her.
I think she's talking about her normal prayers, because when he delivered the lines from Daonica, he didn't give instruction. He just used them because they sound like something that would be, impressive. And the gimmick he was using was this image of, bestowing power upon, this
the amulet.
He
was powering the amulet. That's why you could be right. It could be that she's just saying prayers, but the way I always read it is that she's saying the words that he told her to power the amulet.
Just to get specific, I mean, it's literally, if I remember right, it's just a piece of metal that had some sigildry on it. Like it was going to be used for something.
I don't even think it had sigildry on it. I think it was just like a useless piece of metal.
I thought it had some runes on it or something, which made it look...
It could have. I don't think it's like an actual piece of... It was something that he was going to use to make something. So it could have had some runes on it, but it wasn't like it wasn't a useful thing. It was just a piece of metal as is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, might have had some runes on it to make it look more impressive. But yeah. And then so she's like, I dreamed about the big pot Jimmy showed me before those folks were killed up in Mauthen Farm. I love the kilt. The
By the way,
KILT.
but before that, she says she slept like a babe at the tit. There's a lot of boob talk in these last few tags. This is boobs after boobs after boobs. It's all because of Elodin. I'm telling you, man, that's how much power he has in this world.
Yeah. Elodin mentions grabbing tits, and then everybody's got tit on their mind. He's got
even Rothfuss.
Powers. Yeah.
Rothfuss has it. Now we all do. Yeah, it's not a bad thing. I mean, they're kind of on my mind anyway. So
you fucking dirtbag.
Why is that a dirtbag thing? I'm a human being.
Grow up, dude. Grow up. But he's like, you remembered something about the pot with the 7 people painted on it. I asked excitedly. She hesitated for a moment, frowning. There was 8 of them, she said, not 7. 8? I asked. Are you sure? She nodded earnestly. I thought I told you before. The rising hope in my chest suddenly fell into the pit of my stomach, where it lay heavy and sour. There were 7 Chandrian. It was one of the few things I knew for certain about them. If there were 8 people on the painted vase Nina had seen, ... But yeah, and then she's like, I dreamed about the pot for 3 nights in a row, and it weren't a bad dream at all. I woke up all rested and happy every night. I knew then that God was telling me to do something. And I think that she's probably interpreting that correctly. I think we've seen, it seems like someone went into Kvothe's dreams to implant knowledge into his mind as far as, what plants he needed to survive, what he needed to do to survive there, but also the ring of Greystones, the sailor's knot with Ben, like things that he'd never learned before. Like it seems like there's a power in this world where people can implant dreams into your mind, and I think that is what was happening to Nina. Is she got the same dream 3 nights in a row where she saw this portion of the pot. I think it was important that it was there, and I think that someone was leading her to give this to Kvothe.
I agree, and we also have that with Fella with her dream, right? So
yeah,
with these dreams, it brings up a lot of questions. Who's implanting these dreams? Are these angels? Are these
the only other example we have of in story where it specifically mentions someone coming into a dream is Telu coming into Imperial Poontang's dream before he impregnates himself into her. He comes into her dream and she's like, "Did you come here to help? So and so," and he's like, "No, those are dirtbags."
Her neighbor,
yeah, and she, through her like chastising him, like, you just don't understand what it is to be a human.
I guess
I
didn't
I will now.
Dream.
Yeah, that was in her dream.
So that's
then she woke up and she's pregnant. So that's in story. We have angels going into someone's dreams and doing shit, and so that's what makes me think it's likely angels.
So, since Fitz isn't here, I'll say it. So Nina's Telu.
Yes. And Kvothe is Telu.
Don't do that. Don't say yes to that. You're gonna confuse and infuriate people.
No, Nina is Telu and Kvothe is Telu and everybody else is Telu. Everybody is Telu, and it's a very schizophrenic story. And that's just what it is.
We're going back to that. So it's just a dude sitting in a room by himself, wiping bottles, and going, I'm Telu, we're all Telu, you're Telu. And then he just tells stories in his mind.
Bast is just some janitor, like, trying to cheer up the schizophrenic. So he's like, that's what the story is all about.
So but does Chronicler
and Chronicler
exist?
is the psychiatrist, yeah.
Okay, so he does it. Oh, he's the doctor. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Bast
so
is just a mental patient. Chronicler is the psychiatrist. Yeah, and then Old Cobb is the just wise, funny nurse.
Yeah, that's what he is.
Yeah,
the wise.
Lots of great
nurse.
stories. Lots of great stories. Very colorful life this nurse has lived.
Well, but that is the big question, right? I mean, or one of the big questions is why one side? Well, I guess one side, you could say she only saw that side of the pot, so there is that.
It's clearly
that's not
it's
true.
Clear that
This
is the important information that needs to be delivered to him. I mean, why else would only one side be delivered?
Well, and in particular, 3 nights in a row. And what's so significant to me, and why it seems like it's angels, there's a lot of significance in these chapters, or this story, but that she dreams about it for 3 nights in a row, and they're not bad dreams. She wakes up rested and feeling and happy. That's why she's like, well, God's telling me to do something positive with this information. Rather than feeling like, oh, I'm being haunted, which would be a rational feeling, but to wake up from a dream.
I mean, it also could be like, it could be that the Chandrian are manipulating her or someone's manipulating her. Mm-hmm. But I don't get that feel. I don't get that feel that that's what's going on. But I mean, it could be that too. But whoever's trying to get her to give this information is also trying to, calm her, put her mind at ease.
But what's so interesting about that, as far as I see it, is I see the Amir as being more the good guys, but the way she sees them when she draws them, the way she describes it, is like they were awful. Oh, they were the worst. They were so awful to look at.
Yeah, and I would see, like, when I look at that and I look at who she is, I could see that, like, someone who is just willing to do some dirty shit for the greater good, like the fucking psycho doctor. I'm drawing a blank on his name. That's gonna come up in Gilgamesh, whatever his name is.
I just forget his name. Yeah, I know.
I'm drawing a blank on it, but
the mayor's doctor, poison.
Yeah, but that guy, he was doing some dirty shit, but he advanced the world in a significant way. Like, he killed a lot of people and he experimented on a lot of people, but he saved way more lives than he killed. It's fucked up. It's a fucked up moral philosophy. And so, like, I don't look at the Amir as, like, just, like, good guys. Clearly they're willing to do some fucking super dirty shit. So, I see them distinctly different than the angels.
That's an interesting thing to tease out, is that for the greater good. Because, you could say, well, if he saves enough people, but you kill a few, is it worth their lives? You live a tortured life, or you torture somebody, yet you got all this information so you can save these lives, but some people had to die for it. It's that how many eggs to make that omelet type situation.
Yeah, and not only that, like, well, how much would that philosophy distort your mind and get you make you willing to do some really fucked up shit? Because in your mind, like, once you cross a line, you might cross another line and another line. And you just keep going further, and you're just justifying it for the greater good. The one like kind of counterbalance in the world is, like, the angels are there to enact justice against these things. So that could be, that could be, why there was the downfall of the Amir. Maybe they did go too far, and the angels fucking went and put the boot on them, and stopped them, because they're like, no, you're going too fucking far. You can say greater good all you want, but you're doing some fucking dirty shit, and that's overboard.
That's interesting. That makes a lot of sense in making sense between these 3 groups. The idea that because that greater good, that's interesting, because that's something I hadn't thought too much of. It's a natural progression to consider it in that way, because that is like their motto, right? And that's what their justification is for what they're doing. The fact that she sees them and is like, oh, and is shook by it, and I think it's important that it's this little girl who's innocent, who's scared, who didn't do anything. I mean, she was shown this, right? She was in a position, she was in a situation where this was thrust upon her, and when we're introduced to her, everybody feels bad for her for good reason. That's interesting. Caudicus, by the way.
Yeah, and then
Caudicus.
Also another aspect of it is Ari, who seems way more in tune with the world, has a completely different outlook on the Siri Day and the Emir. She sees them as good. She sees them as a positive to the world. When she thinks of Kvothe as her Siri Day, it's clearly a very positive thing. So the fact that someone who's more in tune with the world, that seems to have some kind of special power with her ability to see the proper role of things, she has a much more positive outlook than Nina. So there could also be something to the Emir, that they are able to see what is actually good, and they are willing to do some bad things, but they are doing it for the greater good. So he leaves so much up in the air with the Chandrian and the Emir, where I don't think there's going to be it's not going to be a black and white story. I think they're going to both have reasons for why they do the things they do, and there's going to be some fucked up things that both of them do, but they both have justifications for it. I think I think when we get to the end, I think the Emir and the Chandrian are going to be much closer, much more similar than they are apart.
Well, I was going to say, what if the Chandrian is not what they initially appear to be, which is kind of what the Kvothe represents, right? They're not just destruction. I think that's what you're saying, right? Is they're not just outright destruction.
I think they are destruction, but I think they have a reason for it.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm saying they're not just outright. It seems like the Kvothe is.
I don't think they're just evil. I don't think they're evil. I think they do evil things, but I think they are, in their mind, I think they probably are thinking they're doing it for the greater good. Although, I should say Haliax is probably thinking of himself as doing, he probably thinks of himself as an Emir, as doing for the greater good. And
I don't think I think Cinder's a tool.
He's aligned himself with some fucking scumbags. Because there's just no way to paint Cinder as a good guy, or all the other guys other than Grey Delcinti.
No, I think Grey Delcinti just does it with style. He's just, that's what it comes down to.
He's embedded himself in this, this dirtbag group. So he's like, Johnny Depp in 21 Jump Street. So, I mean, he's like playing a role.
I don't know the reference. I mean, I know Johnny Depp's in 21 Jump Street. I've never seen a single episode. So I don't know how that reference fits.
Well, your life has been terrible. I mean, it's unfortunate.
Really? I'm missing that much from 21 Jump Street.
Yep. Terrible life. It's unfortunate.
So.
I feel bad for you. I feel bad for your life and your existence. So I pity you.
I pity you. I have a feeling that if I go back, try to watch it, it's going to be hard. It would be difficult. I think no,
you just don't get it.
Well, I don't. I haven't seen it. But I don't get your allegiance to it. I've never heard you talk about it before. So there's also that.
Old Gray's, working underground. He's like, I can't think of like
another example,
fucking 30s movie, black and white movie where someone is, playing, both sides.
It's Spy. You can't think of a Spy. I mean, it sounds like it's some sort of
I don't know,
a double agent type scenario.
Is like what was it, Christmas Story, or what's that stupid movie you're obsessed with? I can't think.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Like someone who's like pretends to be a bad guy but's actually a good guy. Is there a person like that in Wonderful Life? Like, think of that. Like one of your stupid movies you like that someone pretends to be a bad guy but's a good guy. It's like that.
Okay. All right. Well, that was helpful.
Yeah.
I did have questions, and maybe maybe they're already clear, but the candles and the moon, the signifiers that, well, and I might be skipping past something you wanted to point out, but those,
well,
I have
let's
questions about those.
read the
Okay.
read the parts. Like, so first it's Cinder, and so I slowly unrolled the piece of paper and instantly recognized the man she had painted. His eyes were pure black. In the background there was a bare tree, and he was standing on a circle of blue with a few wavy lines on it. So first thing I'll mention is we go in a bonus episode. If you haven't watched it, it's not on the podcast on iTunes or Spotify or anything. It's just on YouTube. If you go to our bonus episode section on YouTube, it's the first bonus episode where we talked to Rich, who had theories about that the signs that the Chandrian have, like Cinder and Haliax, all their different signs, they're curses, and their curses are tied to how they betrayed their cities. So go watch that. But
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, but so yeah, his eyes are pure black. In the background there was a bare tree, and he was standing on a circle of blue with a few wavy lines on it. It's tough to figure out exactly what that is. I think Rich in the bonus episode has a solid guess, but it's very hard to figure out.
The bear tree is not a bear. It's bear with no leaves.
No, that doesn't sound right.
Just to help clarify, just for the listeners, since they're not looking at the page the way I see it on the page, and this could be a typo.
Yeah, it's good to point that out, because a lot of people are fixated on bear trees. And
do bears grow out of trees? I mean, I know they can climb trees.
I think there's trees shaped like bears. I mean, that's just
trees,
a thing. That's a thing.
Bear-shaped tree?
Okay. Yeah, that's a thing. Bear-shaped trees, that's a thing.
Tree-shaped bears?
Yeah. Yeah, both. Yeah, they're both things. But
they're both things.
It's tough to understand what the bear tree means and the wavy lines.
Like, well, she does say that he's supposed to be standing on water, and there's drifts of snow around him. His hair was white.
They're obvious clues, but I think it's one of those clues that you have to have the third book to figure them out. Like, once you read the third book, it's going to be clear why he's standing on water and there's a bear tree. But it's tough to figure out just off of that.
There are certain parts within. I mean, there's many parts within the books that they hint at, and there could be connections that we're not making. But there are certain things where it's like, well, this probably is coming in book 3, and this is going to connect, like a lot of stuff in book 2 connect to book 1, and you don't know it until you get to book 2, right? So there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be points of that. There are certain things that are hinting at it. I like the theories, about their, their, what some people see as their powers is more as their curses, and those curses are because of the cities they betrayed, which is interesting. The standing on water and, with the snow about, I don't know. It's not something I have answers to.
Yeah, most of these things I don't have answers to. They're clearly clues. They're clearly important, but when you go through both books, there's not a lot of evidence. It's just a lot of speculation. I like a lot of the ideas that Triple Dong Rich had and the bonus episode, but I don't. It's just purely guessing. But yeah, and then so the other one, he's like, I unrolled the paper further. There was a second man, or rather the shape of a man, in a great hooded robe. Inside the cowl of the robe was nothing but blackness. Over his head were 3 moons, a full moon, a half moon, and one that was just a crescent. Next to him were 2 candles. One was yellow with a bright orange flame. The other candle sat underneath his outstretched hand. It was gray with a black flame. and the space around it was smudged and darkened. That's supposed to be shadow, I think, Nina said, pointing to the area under his hand. It was more obvious on the plot. I had to use charcoal for that. I couldn't get it right with paint. This was obviously Haliax, the leader of the Chandrian. When I'd seen him surrounded unnatural shadows, the fire around him had been strangely dimmed, and the cowl of his cloak had been black as the bottom of a well.
So a couple things. With the moons, is this signifying time? I mean, is that the signifying aspect of what we're getting with the 3 moons? In terms of access?
Yeah, I mean, you could think of it. Could it be time? Could it be tying him to Haliax? I mean, to Iax. His name is Breath of Iax. Haliax, Hal in Latin means breath, so his name is literally Breath of Iax. Mm-hmm. So could the moon, because if Iax steals the moon, could the moons be signifying that Lanre was turned into Haliax by Iax, and Iax is controlling him in some manner? Or did they make a deal? Like, if Haliax gets Iax let loose, then Iax will kill Haliax and end his suffering. That's actually what I think Haliax is. If I had to put money on it, my guess is that Haliax went behind the doors of stone, like when they talk about no door can borrow his passing. I think the Kvothe gave Haliax the information he needed to be able to go behind any door, and he went behind the door and he talked to Iax, and he made a deal with Iax that I will find someone who will let you out, and then when I get you out, you have to kill me. And I think that because I think it's clear Haliax wants to end his life. And so I think it would make sense that, I don't know if that's right. I mean, that's super speculative, and it's not a theory that I'm very confident in. It's just when I try to piece together where Haliax and Iax could have came together, that's the best I can come up with, is that they made a deal that Iax will kill Haliax and put him out of his misery.
Well, I was going to say, when you say also came together, we get a lot of hints at the significance of the Fae and Faerinial, however you say it. So yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what I brought up with in terms of the access with the 3 moons. I mean, I guess, yeah, that does also make sense that it hints at Iax's relationship here and his significance, as well as it's kind of ruling over, right? It's kind of this onerous. It seems to signify that to me because it's at the top. Which is also where the moon is, obviously, but it hints at that, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I mean, it could tie into the Lackless poems, like we talked about in episode 4, where a time that must be right. It could be signifying that there is a specific time, a specific phase of the moon that needs to be right. It's tough to say. It's just it's clearly a clue. It's just there's nothing else in the books that I've come across that clearly explains what the clue means. It's clearly a clue that we haven't been given the information that would spell it out for us yet. But it's a clue, and the flame and the shadow flame.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I could see where that has something to do with the Lackless poems, where they talk about the candles, and so stuff to say though. It's very speculative. I mean, obviously, these are massive clues that are extremely important to figuring out what's going to happen in book 3. It's just Rothfuss didn't give us the information to figure it out.
Yeah, so yellow with a bright orange flame. The other is underneath his outstretched hand, gray with a black flame. And then the space around it is smudged and darkened. Yeah, I don't know. It's great imagery. It's very mysterious. There's a lot of mystery wrapped up in it, and giving us, information that's iconic to the story. I mean, it's rich with imagery. It's just, we don't have the pieces all fit. We're getting a lot of images that hint at many different things, and it's just hard to.
Yeah, I mean, there's just there's just not enough information to pin it down and to like give like, okay, it's not like Natalia Lackless. I mean, that's a pretty clear theory, even though for whatever reason I keep seeing people like no, that's not what it is. It's not Natalia Lackless. Kvothe's actually the son of the moon. But like there are some clues in the story where it's very clear, and this is a clear clue. It's just there's not enough substance around it to be able to figure out what it means. But it's in your face that these are major fucking clues. These are not minor clues. These are major clues. The fact that there's there's a third figure larger than the other two. He wore armor and an open-faced helmet. On his chest was a bright insignia that looked like an autumn leaf, red on the outside, brightening to orange near the middle with a straight black stem. The skin of his face was tanned, but the hand he held poised upright was bright red. The other hand was hidden behind a large round object that Nina had somehow managed to color metallic bronze. I guess it was a shield. He's the worst, Nina said, her voice subdued. And then, Kvothe's like, you shouldn't say that. You've done a wonderful job. Nina gave his faint smile. That's not what I meant, she said. He was hard to do. I got the copper pretty okay here. She touched his shield, but this red, her finger brushed his upraised hand, is supposed to be blood. He's got blood all over his hand. She tapped his chest, and this was brighter, like something burning. I recognized him then. It wasn't a leaf on his chest. It was a tower wrapped in flame. His bloody outstretched hand wasn't demonstrating something. It was making a gesture of rebuke towards Haliak and the rest. He was holding up his hand to stop them. This man was one of the Emir, one of the Siridae. I think the tower in flame is probably Meritorial. I think that's the most likely because of Haliak's being the the one who founds the the Emir. I think Meritorial burning would make the most sense as being on their shield. The bloody hand and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm real curious what the backstory is on the Emir. Because I think once we understand the backstory of the Emir, it's going to be less cut and dry. Where it seems on the surface they're the good guys, Chandrian are the bad guys. I think there's going to be some semblance of the stories that makes the Emir worse and the Chandrian better without, completely flipping them.
I get that impression. I mean, I definitely get the impression that the Emir, it's not so clear cut, especially with the Emir. It's a bit harder to see with the Chandrian, I feel like, but it does. Just considering that that Haliak's checks Cinder for what he's doing, that the idea that the others within the group are cursed, rather than just running roughshod over all these areas, just to kill people, but having some sort of purpose behind it. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be more gray there, which is more interesting for the story to begin with, man. I mean, if it was just clear cut, good and bad, then there's not a whole lot of nuance. I think Rothfuss deserves a lot more credit with what he's created here, and I like it. I like the idea that what you brought up there with like Caudicus and the greater good, and what the moral question that brings up is, where's the line?
Yeah.
And, what are you willing to do? And
good to who?
It's an age-old, exactly. And it's an age-old question of, well, then who wields the power, and who's being the one, oppressed over. Yeah, it definitely goes a lot further than just good and bad.
That's why I think of the angels as, the watchers, because, it comes down to when you talk about like for the greater good, like the first question that pops in most people's mind is, like who determines what's good? Who watches, these people? And so the angels in Scarpy's story seem like the person that would be, watching over the Chandrian and the Aemir and, preventing them from crossing, lines that you just can't cross. Because they're obviously extremely fucking powerful. They could cause some major fucking damage.
Well, and it's makes sense too that what we have with Cinder, where he's like, "Oh, you're just as good as a watcher," which he holds them in contempt because that's not his purpose. He's one of action, even though So why would he hold them in contempt? Well, if they had power over him, that would be the reason, right? I think that would be a very good reason, at least.
Yeah, and you'd see them as more of an annoyance than like an actual like enemy, because they're not really like trying to force things to go one way or another, but they are involved. They are trying to prevent you from going too far. They're in your way, but they're not actively like trying to hunt you down and kill you. So
yeah, it's the judgment, right? It's weighing that judgment. That's it's a frustrating position to be put in if you're in a place like that. If you're in one of those positions, because you're playing your game, the other people are playing their game, and at least when you're playing against the competitor, that that's why everybody hates the ref, right? Because he's the one in the way as you try to get over on the competition. At least with the competition, you know what their directive is.
Yeah,
and you're working against them rather than being judicated against, as the angels would represent. Which is also, I mean, and that so the angels have their influence through, let's say, Kvothe saving him when he's
or
about
Nina
to die of hypothermia, or Nina with the pot, and Kvothe with his dreams and surviving in the woods, or Fella with getting the suggestion of what the doors of stones are, and Phasia and all that. Yeah, and who knows with Ari, man? There seems to be a lot banging around in that head of hers. There seems to be a lot in her past experience. There seems to be a lot that I would imagine she has access to that we. Fucking such a great, interesting character that I haven't thought about in a while because we haven't dealt with her in a couple chapters here. But there's so much that's possible within her, right? Because of just the enigma that she is. Yeah, that makes me want book 3 a lot more.
Yeah,
because I know we're gonna have a whole bunch of chapters here with no Ari.
And this chapter specifically makes you want 3 because you see how big of clues they are, and they're just they're impossible to perfectly predict. I mean, maybe someone's fucking Rain Maned it out, but I have not seen a guess where I'm like, yeah, that's 100%. That's definitely what it is.
The suggestion of again, I like it so much that the Cyrda's face is terribly grim. He looks angry. He looks like he's ready to burn down the whole world. The fact that she says it and the way that she says it, man, it's powerful, and it completely changes. Because I've read these books before, but I haven't read them as closely as we're reading now, and it completely changes the way. And I've slowly gotten there where I'm looking at the Aemir a little bit differently, but this does definitely solidify or sort of puts together some of those ideas that there's a lot more dirt to them.
Yeah, and we get some more information when she talks about the parts that she's seen but she didn't paint, and she's like, not like this. I remember there was a woman with no clothes on and a broken sword and a fire. Those are clearly Chandrian signs. Like Uznea lives in nothing but decay. Sturkis is in thrall of iron, and the other guy with the fire, I can't remember. It doesn't matter, but
on the top of my head. But didn't she go as far as even saying she thought an angel was helping her?
Well, she felt God was putting these dreams into her mind. And then she's like, I think an angel helped me remember this piece in a dream. So I put paint, so I could paint it down and bring it to you. And then he asked where she got the parchment, and she took it from the Book of the Path. And when she was she could like take a knife against the ink and scratch it off, but she left all the names of like Telu and the angels. And when she did that, the names of like Ordale and Andin, two of the angels, were over top of the Amir's shoulders, like kind of weighing it down almost. And so that's also another indication that the angels are there to like keep these people in line,
keep them at bay,
that they are watchers.
It's a really cool image when you picture what she's created, but then still having the parchment, on the paper, the original writing from the Bible, basically still having those words sort of peppered throughout. It's pretty cool to sort of picture that, the imagery of it.
It's hard to, given what we know about the Amir and the greater good, and then to a clear picture of one of the Amir, the Siri Day, above reproach, but above his shoulder is two angels that Kvothe sees are like weighing him down. It's hard to get that kind of imagery from Rothfuss and not think that the Amir are kind of like a Punisher, and then you have the angels who are just kind of like trying to keep the fucking Punisher in line, like trying to keep him from going, full bad and just crossing lines that they can't come back from.
Kind of like Haliax with the Chandrian.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, that's really interesting, man. So they kind of are pitted against one another. They're almost like mirror images. And again, it does also
that's even that fits with Cinder going, you're no better than a watcher. Like, because Haliax is weighing them down, like maybe the angels are weighing down the Amir.
And then again, it also forces or suggests that question of, I mean, you could just flip it. I know this is what Fitz would love to do, is like, maybe they're the bad guys. Maybe these guys are the bad guys. And yeah, that question kind of comes up, especially here, though. That really gets suggested, by her reaction and how she sees. It's more upsetting to her, the image with the Amir, than it is with the Chandrian, or in particular with, I know she doesn't have access to the whole pot, but with Cinder, at least.
Well, I mean, you could think about it like with the Punisher. Like, if you're a little girl and you saw the Punisher come in and just wipe out a bunch of bad guys, like, it'd be scary as fuck.
Yes, it would.
Like, I mean, you especially if you don't know the context about why he's doing what he's doing or who he's killing, you just see some dude just going in, just massacring a bunch of people. Like, it'd be fucking scary. So,
yeah,
it makes sense to paint the Amir as scary, because they are willing to cross lines that, they're clearly anti-heroes at best.
I was going to say, man, I mean, it's all about context, right? I mean, if you just show Ned Stark chopping off some guy's head, and there's no music suggesting he's a good guy or no backstory, it's like, oh, this guy's kind of fucking vicious.
Yeah.
Like, what's this guy's deal? He seems like the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, context is important. If you haven't learned that in your life, that's something you pick up from this show, is context is important.
Yeah, please.
Write that down. Write that down. Like, stop, pause the podcast and write down. Context is important. Just learned a lot.
Please do.
Just drop some dimes.
If you pick nothing else up, if you haven't yet at this point in your life, please, I beg you, the rest of the world will benefit.
Hold on.
If you haven't picked up
anything from this podcast, like, go start over. Like, I'm just dropping dime after dime after dime after dime. Like fucking Chris Paul. Chris Paul of podcasts.
Chris Paul of podcasts. Okay, well,
Yeah.
He didn't win a NBA Finals, but
Fine. I'm the Magic Johnson of podcasts. You happy? Is that better?
I like the little the little nuance and context and world building here, where Nina suddenly is panicked. Oh no, I should have been back at the docks by now. My mom's going to give me a birching. And the fact that Kvothe even goes as far as like laughing about it, that he's just utterly amazed by. She's willing to defy
the Chandrian, but still terrified of making her mother angry. Such is the way of the world.
Yeah. Again,
it's a good line.
It's great.
And then I also liked it's a little throwaway line when he tells her, if you have any other dreams or, have anything else. I play music at Anchors. And she's like, is it magic music? I laughed again. Some people think so. Yeah, me. I think so.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's again, I think there's a lot of wisdom in this innocent little girl that's being, at least she's being used in that way by Rothfuss here and giving a lot of hints to things that we should be picking up on. And I think there is definitely much more to his music.
This is a pivotal point for him, too, because when he's like, my mind spun with what I just learned, I thought of what I heard Haliak say to Cinder all those years ago. Who keeps you safe from the Amir, the singers, and the scythe? And then he's like, but everyone knew about the Amir. They were the bright knights of the Aeturn Empire. They were the strong hand of the church for 200 years. They were the subject of 100 stories and songs. I knew my history. The Amir had been founded by the Talon Church in the early days of the Aeturn Empire, but the pottery Nina had seen had been much older than that. I knew my history. The Amir had been condemned and disbanded by the church before the empire fell, but I knew the Chandrian were still afraid of them today. It seemed like there was more to the story.
Yeah, and that's what we're getting here, right? This is what's being suggested. And I think that's obviously the biggest takeaway from
almost everything we've been talking about is like there's got to be more, even with us having more pieces of the puzzle than Kvothe has. We've been able to piece more together than he has, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But even having all that extra information, I think we've been talking about all this entire chapter is like it seems like there's more going on with the Amir. They're not just all good. They're not all bad. There's something anti-heroic about them, and it seems like the angels are watching over them and the Chandrian, or at least them, and like trying to keep them in line. Angels maybe are putting dreams in Nina's head and Kvothe's head and Fella's head. Like there's clearly more going on that we have some clues at, and we kind of get a little bit of a feel of what might be going on, but we just have loose guesses. And Kvothe is very much in those shoes. I love the fact that Kvothe ends this chapter in the same shoes as us.
Yeah.
And even with all the information we got, we still end this chapter with like just guesses.
Well, and clearly that this is also suggested with the fact that the information about the Amir is also being pruned. They're not able to find. Well, I guess we find that out later, or I don't think we've faced it yet.
Yeah, especially with the mayor.
Yeah. We know that people have tried; they can't find it. What's Lauren up to? Like, what are these guys up to? If it's all good, if everything they're doing is noble, then why be in hiding?
Yeah.
The one other thing in the chapter that struck me as kind of funny is when he reacts, "You cut this out of the Book of the Path?" I asked, somewhat aghast. I'm not particularly religious, but I do have a vestigial sense of propriety. After so many hours in the archives, the thought of cutting pages out of a book was horrifying to me. I just thought it was kind of funny, Kvothe clutching his pearls like that.
Yeah.
Like, my goodness.
After the vapors. After what Lauren fucking put him through, it's understandable that he'd be a little fucking gun shy.
Well, yeah, it is one of those things that is kind of I mean, even if you see someone like ripping pages out of a Bible, it's kind of like, whoa, dude, tempting fate here. I mean, it's a little rough. I mean, and frankly, I even get, I mean, it's a little ridiculous.
I don't know.
But I don't like when people even like fold pages of a book personally, like write in I used to write in the book. Now I just do it all on paper, where it's just kind of like you're choosing for that book that cannot really be reread without your notes in them. You know what I'm saying? I guess there's obviously utility in how convenient that is for you, but if someone else is looking to read the book, they're not able to read it without this shit highlighted or this note in the margin.
Oh yeah, people marking up books like like you're an asshole. If it's not your personal book, if someone else is going to read it, you're an asshole. Because I hate it. I don't care. You could put the most profound fucking note in a book in the world. I'm not going to read it because I'm going to be like, I hate you for marking up this book.
Well, not even that. It's the author put a lot of thought into what they were putting into the book. You get to just grandstand in this moment,
and I don't need to know like what you thought was the most profound fucking shit. It's not
make
your
that choice
book.
On my own. Yeah,
like and like who's fucking selling a book they marked up? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I buy used books for my classes all the time, and it's like as soon as you open it up, you're hoping to see the least amount of marks possible, but. It's some of it I think is literally. Well, it's kind of a funny image to literally be grandstanding on top of other people's words, but you could just have a piece of paper, man. That's what I do. I just have a piece of paper and I make a bunch of notes, and you just label where it is in the book. You go back through.
I'm too anal about that stuff. I own hundreds of books, and you could flip through every single one of them, and there will not be one mark in any of them.
But Dan, then how will people know that you've read them?
Yeah. You look at the back of it, and you can see it's been bent open. Like, but I don't care if you know that I read a book. This is not a competition for me.
No, that's one of the funnier things where it's like you hear about that all the time, where it's like people have all these books, and it's like, if I had $1 for every one I've read, I'd be broke. Okay, what the fuck you have? These are trophies.
Yeah, why are you collecting books for? I mean, I guess you could collect books, but like take better care of them than just put them on a bookshelf. Like, what are you doing? Like,
or you're just building a library for other people to enjoy, which I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah.
If I can have access to it. But those are the types of, that type of stuff always cracks me up, where it's like, well, how many books
I own books that I haven't read, but it's mostly like I don't own fiction books that I haven't read. I
own a lot of books I haven't read, but and my wife always gives me shit where it's like, oh, you need more. Have you read all those? It's like, dude, there's only so much time. And if I was the same person 5 years ago when I wanted to read a certain book, and then today I still only want to read those books I have, there's some real problems with my growth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, I mean, I should be evolving to where
a lot of the times too, like most of the books that I haven't read, it was because I was researching a topic or a specific subject, and then like I learned enough where it was like, okay, I got enough information on the subject. I don't need to keep hammering. Like, I bought a number of different books on the economics of during World War II, and the Roaring '20s and that kind of shit. But once I had gotten enough information, I was like, well, I don't need to read those next 2 books. I read enough in the previous ones. So like I've had that kind of shit happen where I bought more books than I needed, but that was just when I was in prep mode, in weird prep mode where it's like, I'm not even doing this for a class or anything. It was just like, I want this information. I want to understand what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I had more time. More time to read. I'd knock some out. I just
don't have that. Like, once I got the information, I don't need to keep hammering away at it. It's like, all right, I got it. All right, enough.
Well, that's also completely different. I'm definitely more into reading fiction and what the authors are doing and how they're doing it differently, and the different types of genres and everything. And you can never get enough, to be able to appreciate it all. But you can't read all these books. There's only so much time.
That's why I don't have a lot of fiction books that I haven't read, because usually I buy them and then I read them immediately. Like I don't stack fiction books. I just buy them and then read them. Like, as I read them, I buy them. When I need a book to read, I buy it and then I read it.
Yeah, it's a good method.
Yeah.
Good method to go by.
Nonfiction, that's different, because sometimes you're researching shit, and so you might want to buy
pieces, sometimes.
Yeah.
You just need certain pieces of certain things. There's another option, which I've been taking advantage of recently. Library.
Scribd, that is fucking super dope.
Scribd?
Yeah, because you can pay them like $10 a month, and you get you don't own them, but you're basically renting their entire library of audiobooks and Kindle books for like $10 a month.
It's less than Audible.
Benefit of Audible is you own it. It's yours. You can cancel Audible and you own the books.
Yeah,
With Scribd, you're just renting them. It's like a library for $10 a month. But extremely useful. Like there's a couple books that I was reading that I was like, I don't really care if I own them, and these are not books I'm going to reread. So it was like, I'll do Scribd and fucking, for a month and just knock these books out and then, cancel. Audible's great though if you want to own the book, if you're going to reread it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
a lot of super entertaining information. You guys are really enjoying our
here's the good news. At least it's we're assuming the people listening to this do read books. I mean, I'm assuming they've at least read a couple books,
and I'm assuming that you're extremely interested in our reading habits.
Yeah,
because they're very interesting too.
I just read Frankenstein. You want to talk about
it? Yeah. A Kingkiller podcast. Yeah, let me hear about your Frankenstein ideas in the middle of the Kingkiller podcast episode.
It's much better than I thought it would be. Very significant.
But that's all I got for 35, and then we'll finish up on 36 here.
Right on. There were a few things I was going to mention, but they're all metaphors for things that happen in Frankenstein, so we could just move on.
Yeah. All right, so chapter 36 is All This Knowing. In this chapter, the boys are back in town, hanging tough. And they get drunk, talk about girls, and then Kvothe starts to tell them the story of Skiop traveling through Faerenial. And I like it starts off with, given my taste for Souten, I was not much of a drinker, but Will and Sim were kind enough to demonstrate the finer points of the art. We visited several different taverns just for variety, but eventually we ended up back at the Aeolian. I preferred the music, Simon preferred the women, and Willem because it serves Scutton.
Yeah, it's interesting the way he went into it, because I don't think I'd heard of Souten. I had heard of Graysdale Mead.
Yeah, it's water.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get it at first. Then he says he's moderately well buttered when he came up on the stage. That's why I was like, wait, what? There's more than a little drunk, but it takes more than a little drink to make me fumble-fingered. And just to prove it, he went through a song that's difficult enough to articulate when sober as a stone. Audience loved it, showed its appreciation in the appropriate way, and since I was not drinking Souten that night, much of the evening's lost to living memory. Yeah, I got confused because I'm like, wait, so he's not drinking it? Oh, okay, yeah, it's Graysdale Mead.
Yeah.
Although I remembered when Simon ordered Graysdale Mead, he got a little piss in his drink.
Yeah. A little piss beer.
A little piss water. Yeah. But so they got nice and fucked up.
Yeah, and I like the aspect of it. The audience loved it and showed its appreciation in an appropriate way. And since I was not drinking Souten that night, much of the evening is lost to living memory. And I love the aspect of it too, where he's like, "Where's my loot?" I asked more loudly than I intended.
Happens.
You left it with Stanchion at the Aeolian one, said he was afraid you would trip over it and break your neck. But I like that it keeps coming up too. That he's like all of a sudden, where's my loot? It's like, dude, you keep fucking asking this. You fucking drunk.
Well, and it does also tell you like they're hammered, like they're falling over each other at a couple points. But then they're at a Greystone. And that's a big part of the subject.
We get also the part about it was part of the Greystone Road, straight as a nail, flat as a table, older than God. So again, that lends more evidence to the fact that this bridge was built by the Ruach, and this is super fucking old. Super old. This is 5,000 years old. Like, this old road was built by people that are almost mythological fucking beings in this world. And so it's like they almost live in this like lost technology that they just like. There's so much of the like between the Kilvin with his ever burning lamp and the Adim swords and this bridge, and like it's almost like they live in a time where all this technology was lost and they had to start over.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially with the bridge, because they use the bridge. It's this ancient relic, but still used as a bridge, and it tells you a lot about how it was built. Obviously the quality, it's definitely kept up.
Yeah, and then Willem leads him to a Greystone, which I think it's significant that he leads him to a Greystone, and the pieces of information that we get out of it is about Faerinial, for one, with the Circle of Greystones, and he dreamed about a Circle of Greystones, and also this is the time where he tells a story that gives the biggest clue that his mom is Natalia Lackless.
Yeah, it's interesting the way it comes out too. Not to like jump too far ahead, but there's a couple points where the way he speaks, he says he found himself saying, and without really meaning to, he goes into literally his father's song. And I mean, obviously he's drunk. And I've read in medical journals that brings down your inhibitions. I think it was in the Lancet.
That doesn't sound right.
That alcohol brings down your inhibitions. I've read that.
No, doesn't sound right.
But I wonder if there's more of an outside influence here. Like as you said, I wonder if the Greystone has something to do with the fact that he hasn't talked about this. He hasn't even said his mother's name in how many, he says, years.
I mean, I do think it's important that so many pivotal moments in his life happen around Greystones. I think that's important. I think Greystones have to play a significant role in the story. I mean, everything from he fights the bandits near Greystone, he goes through Greystone to get into to the Fae with Valerian. His first interaction with Denna is at Greystone. The first time he tells about his mom and dad being dead, he talks about them in the past tense to his friends. He's not talked about this shit. It's with a Greystone. He tells them about a story about Faerinial at a Greystone, and there's a circle of Greystones in the middle of Faerinial, and Faerinial, all roads, all roads lead to Faerinial, or Faerinial leads to all roads, whatever they say. It's like there's very much massive significance to Greystones, and this is one of the clearest chapters. And then they make a bet, and they dig in deeper, and that leads to Puppet. So Greystones are massively important. And King Phasia on the coin, he's standing with Greystones standing behind him. The Greystone archway standing behind him on the picture. Like, there's massive significance to Greystones.
Yeah, I mean, we've pointed that out so many times, and that was one of the main things that I was mentioning early on while we've gone through this reread is really to look much more closely, and it's obvious. I mean, you can make a note. I made a note to myself to look more closely, but it's quite clear because so many of the largest events of his life occur at Greystones. And I mean, they're huge to the Rue, which again ties into the history. I think there's a lot in this chapter that to me hints at the Rue being that tapped into something through their lineage. You know, when Simon mentions that, you know, they're talking about it's kind of interesting when he brings it up because he goes around on eggshells not wanting to bring this up, obviously because Kvothe doesn't really talk about his past, right? But when he does go as far as even asking him, actually it was kind of funny when he asked him, are you really a Dima Rue? And he asked, does it matter? No, I was just wondering. And then he's like, what does he say? Ambrose called you Rue a couple times, but he's called you other insulting things before, which struck me as funny because he's like, dude, it's not an insult to be called a Dima Rue if you're a Dima Rue. Yeah. It reminded me of this dude. I don't remember if it was in a class or at work or something, but I remember some guy saying he thought it was offensive to call someone a Mexican.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, Jesus, dude. Like either your parents are super racist towards Mexicans or you are. Yeah. But it's not racist to call somebody Mexican. Yeah. Clearly, the fact that you think it says something.
You just go through that Michael Scott diversity training.
Yeah.
Hey, goody goo goo.
But my point in even bringing that up is that he goes as far as saying, well, some things that they say must be true. I've never heard anyone play like you do, and that kind of does bring up what we've talked about before, magic and the music, and how it is another level in terms of performance, like what they're capable of.
Yeah, I mean, like what he's doing is something different. I mean, it's different. And I think it points to there's something magical going on with his music. I mean, there's clearly something different going on with his music.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you get their bet. Like Sem thinks that the Greystones are pagan relics, which also lends some kind of just slight evidence that Braden might be going through Greystones, because there's the talk of him doing pagan rituals and that kind of stuff, and the fact that Sem mentions pagan relics in terms of the Greystones, I think there might be something there as far as Braden going through using Greystones as like a portal to travel from point A to point B. Talks about him traveling a lot, doing pagan relics, pagan rituals. Sem talks about Greystones as pagan relics. They talk about Feyrienial as being like, a place where all roads meet. And they talk about Greystones are like old roadways. So I think there's something to all of that in the fact that Braden is traveling around the world, and I think he's likely traveling through these Greystones.
Yeah, well, it's clearly, Rothfuss is giving us these suggestions for a reason. I wonder how many people, how many Bradens there are, how many people there are that, are able to do it like knowingly, you know what I mean? Like to utilize it. I'm curious. Yeah, like how many, I mean, and also with the Fae, in terms of their ability to come in and out, how many Bast are there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've talked about Tinkers are likely, from the Fae. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of the Fae traveling around the world. We do get a funny little line where he's like, I wrinkled my forehead trying desperately to remember. Did I sing the verse about the Talon and the sheep? It's not a good verse for polite society. Nia, Willem said. Thank God, I said. It was a goat. Man, seriously, before he bubbled up into laughter. In the Talen's cassock, Simmons sang, then joined Willem in laughter. No, no, I said miserably, resting my head in my hands. My mother used to make my dad sleep under the wagon when he sang that in public. Stanchion will beat me with a stick and take away my pipes next time I see him. They loved it, Simmons reassured me. I saw Stanchion singing along, Willem added. His nose was a little red by that time, too. And then you get, Simmons asking, are you really the Ademaru? And
I was going to say that's a pretty good touch that also Rothfuss does here, that you have repeatedly Willem speaks. What's the language?
Sealdish.
Sealdish, yeah. That he repeatedly speaks it, which is natural. Somebody that speaks a different language as their prominent language when he's drunk.
Yeah.
It comes up a few times. So, yeah, it's realistic.
Yeah, and then so they start talking about, like, did she really make him sleep under a wagon? Simon asked. What? You said your mom made your dad sleep under the wagon for singing the verse about the sheep. Did she really? It's mostly a figure of speech, I said, but once she really did. It wasn't for singing Tinker Tanner, I found myself saying. It was a song he'd written about her. It was I was quiet for a long moment. Then I said it. Lorien. It was the first time I'd said my mother's name in years. The first time since she'd been killed. It felt strange in my mouth. Then, without really meaning to, I began to sing. Dark Lorien, Arladin's wife, has a face like a blade of a knife, has a voice like a prickled down burr, but can tally a sum like a money lender. My sweet Tally cannot cook, but she keeps a tidy ledger book. For all her faults, I do confess, it's worth my life to make my wife, not Tally, a lot less. Which, when you go through this first time, it's tough to put that together with Natalia Lockless. Because you haven't even, I don't even think you've heard the name Natalia Lackless yet. I don't think you hear it until you meet Maelwyn Lackless.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right.
It's tough to put that together the first time. You just think this is Kvothe just opening it up for the first time with his friends, and he's talking about his mom for the first time in years. Literally years. First time he said her name. And so he buried this secret down deep where he's just not willing to talk about it with anybody. But in the midst of that, he also gives Rothfuss a massive fucking clue. Not Tally a lot less, not Natalia Lockless, and the My Sweet Tally. I mean,
well, and the subject matter of it as well, in terms of, well, and we get that from other pieces where, I guess it's not really necessarily as much here, but where he takes a noble, as a wife, so kind of that combined with playing with the name, how he does it, I think, is tremendous on Rothfuss's part. It's really, really clever.
This is one of those ones where you wouldn't know it's a clue until you go back there. Like some of them, like we talked about in the previous chapter, those are obvious clues. This is not an obvious clue. But once you piece everything together, then it's like, holy shit, not only is it a clue, it's a fucking giveaway clue. This is the biggest clue.
The biggest thing that leads you here is just how vehement Maelwyn is towards the Rue. How much she hates the Rue. It's just like, Jesus, man. Like, I understand a lot of people look down on them, but this is a lot. What's up with you? And and that makes sense. When you make all the connections, makes sense that this would have her that pissed off. And, and then suddenly, once you do piece this together, it's pretty crafty, to put it mildly, on Rothfuss's part.
Yeah, and Kvothe just throws it away like, no, it's not about the words. It was, she hated the meter. She hated the awful meter. Yeah, that's why she flipped out and literally made him sleep under the wagon.
I mean, I like the idea that would be the case, that it would be the meter that that would upset her more than the content. Meaning like she's like not a slave to, but that's kind of the phraseology is like she's a slave to music, and if the music sucks, then
I also like the aspect of it. Does it seem odd that it's men that always have to do their sleeping somewhere else? It's pretty obvious women control the bed. I said, like, there is no fucking chance in hell that if I don't want to sleep on a couch, that I'm sleeping on a couch. Like, it's straight to that, that great Bill Burr stand-up bit. It's like, what is she gonna do? She gonna beat me up? It's like, no, I'm not sleeping on the couch. Sleeping where I always sleep.
Yeah, that's it's great. It's a great bit because I've never understood it either.
No,
and people say like, I don't want to be sleeping on the couch. Like, why? What? Yeah. What are you talking about?
You're like a grown ass man, dude. What are you doing?
No, you're not. Apparently, apparently you're not.
Yeah,
apparently you're not a grown ass man because someone is telling you where you get to sleep now.
So fucking weak. I don't understand it. Like, she told me I have to sleep on the couch, so I love that bit too. When he's like, unless your fucking woman is like some MMA fucking wrestler, like she's like choking you out, and he's like, God damn it, I hate when she does this.
Well, I mean that's a comic spin on it. The psychological part is like, dude, what are you doing? What is this relationship you're in? Like, if I'm your friend, it'd be like,
drop them balls, buddy. Drop them balls.
Like, how did we get to this point? And how do we get you out of this without it being too painful? Because this might mean
how about you guys just sleep back to back and you just ignore each other? Like, no, this fucking giving up my bed and I'm gonna sleep on the couch. No, don't stop doing that. If you're doing that, stop doing that. Fucking drop them nuts, buddy. You're a big grown man. What's she gonna do? Beat you up? If she tries to beat you up for trying to sleep in your bed, get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, again, this goes back to you got some bigger problems here.
Yeah.
Much bigger problems.
And I like the aspect too when they start talking about like pretty women, and he's like, the stroll is pretty, Sim said. Keh, Will said. Too pale, fella.
He's straight to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Simmons shook his head mournfully. Out of our league. And Willem said, she's Modagan. She is? Sim asked. Will nodded, wearing the widest smile I'd ever seen on his face. Sim sighed wretchedly. It figures. Bad enough that she was the prettiest girl in the Commonwealth. I didn't know she was Modagan, too. I'll grant you the prettiest girl on this side of the river, I corrected. On the other side of the river, I corrected. On this side, you've already gone on about your Denna, Will interrupted, 5 times. And you get Will gives him good advice, like, listen, you just have to make your move. This Denna girl is obviously interested in you. And, she hasn't said anything along those lines. They never say they're interested. Simon laughed at the absurdity of it. They're little games. It's like a dance. He held up 2 hands, making them talk to each other. Oh, fancy meeting you here. Well, hello. I was just going to lunch. What a happy coincidence. So was I. Can I carry your books? And then Kvothe with the great line. Can we skip to the end of this puppet show where you end up sobbing into your bear for a span of days? Simmons scowled at me. Willem laughed. So the interactions between these guys are great. Like, he does a really good job of the fucking banter back and forth.
Well, yeah, even going back to they make a bet on who's right about the Greystones too.
Yeah,
like that type of stuff. I mean, that's what friends do. But yeah, I mean, we get deeper in terms of, well, a couple things. Again, why Sim is doing well here with Fella is he's still not trying. He's like, she's out of our league. I'm not even trying. Yeah, that's why you're doing well. Keep not trying, but keep being a nice guy the way that you're being a nice guy, which is also joking around and shit instead of just being a just being like a lick spittle or whatever, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
But then, Kvothe goes deeper with, she has enough men fawning over her. They come and go and then that goes back to what we know about him, which is he's scared to make a move because of what could happen. And then I'd rather be her friend, which is the the big reveal that we've all known thus far. He's been chosen. He chose to be in the friend zone.
Yeah, that's a rough place to choose to be.
But actually,
I do like that Willem checks him on that when he's like, but you would rather be joyfully held in the circle of her arms, but you fear she will reject you. You fear she would laugh and you would look the fool. Willem shrugged easily. You are hardly the first to feel this way. There is no shame in it. I mean, Willem's like fucking phenomenal in these chapters.
Yeah.
And he's like, I hope I admitted quietly, but I don't want to assume. I've seen what happens to men that assume too much and cling to her. Willem nodded solemnly. Willem gets this shit. Willem fucking gets it.
The thing is, like, Will and Sim are perfect here for exactly what Kvothe needs to hear.
Yeah.
Because then Sim says she bought you that loot case. That has to mean something, which is exactly what he needs to hear right at this moment, because he's admitting the situation that he's put himself in, that he thinks he's stuck in, and go back to, well, she hasn't really said anything. Okay, she bought you a fucking loot case that apparently is extraordinarily expensive. But what does it mean? Fuck, man. It means she's fucking interested, man. Jesus Christ. Yeah. It seems like she's interested, but what if it's just wishing on my part? Dude, it's not wishful thinking when someone gives you such an extravagant gift. I mean,
oh no, yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, that's too over the top for no reason.
Well, honestly, I was going to say it would be different if it was Fella, because it'd be like, well, I saved your life. Yeah. This is over the top, but I saved your life, so I guess that's understandable. Why is Denna doing this for you?
Yeah, there's no justifiable reason other than, she cares about him deeply. And then I love this one of my favorite lines in this book. You'll never know unless you try, Sim said with a bitter edge to his voice. That's what I'd normally say. But you know what? It doesn't work worth a damn. I chase them and they kick at me like I'm a dog at the dinner table. I'm tired of trying so hard. He gave a weary sigh, still flat on his back. All I want is someone who likes me. All I want is a clear sign, I said. I want a magical horse that fits in my pocket, Will said, and a ring of red amber that gives me power over demons, and an endless supply of cake. Fucking love that line.
Yeah.
He's just
what else can we wish
so
for
much like bringing
happen?
them back to reality. Like, okay, I want a genie that grants me wishes. Like, what? Get the fuck out of here. Wake up, boys.
Yeah. What are we talking about here? Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect timing too. And again, this goes back to Sim, where he's finally given up. Finally, he gives up. Well, that's the moment, bro. The moment you give up is when you get. Is a funny thing that guys used to say when they were younger, and I remember saying it myself. Is as soon as you're in a relationship with a girl, now all these girls want you. Why is that? Well, now you don't look like a jackass staring at every girl that walks in the bar. You know what I mean? Whatever we used to do that was didn't work, basically. All of a sudden it does work because you're not looking, because you're not desperate. Basically, I guess that would be what it is. Now you don't have desperation hanging all over you, and you actually look like, you're just there.
Yeah, I mean, you want to try, you just don't want to fucking try hard.
Yes. Yeah.
That's his problem. His problem is not that he's trying, it's that he's putting on an act. He's not being himself.
Correct. Yeah.
But also too with that he talks about like I want a ring of red amber that gives me power over demons. He talks about like an amber ring for demons. Kvothe mentions that he had a ring of amber or something along those lines, and Ari talks about like I could give him a ring of amber, but that's that could be too melodramatic, or it not melodramatic. It could be too foreboding. Like it could be pointing towards like bad times for him ahead.
It's a suggestion by Rothfuss. It's the amber ring. It's an amber alert.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's clearly that there are amber alerts against powerful creatures.
There you go. That's what it is.
And that when that amber alert rings on the phone, it blasts their eardrums out, and they fucking hate it, and they kill themselves.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's how the ring works.
Yeah. The ring, that noise pops up. And
wow. See what he did?
It's super annoying.
Ring and ring. So we were talking about that before.
A ring within a ring.
A ring you hear or a ring you wear.
Yeah.
In this case,
it's a ring you wear. It's an Amber Alert that you wear. We figured that out. Boom.
Got him.
That's a bam.
That's a bam.
But yeah, then it ends with. But I do think that the Amber Ring's going to come up. I think there's something to it. It's just mentioned by multiple characters, multiple different times. I think there's going to be something to it. I don't know what it is, but I think there's going to be something to it.
So when Kvothe has all fingers covered in rings, is one of them amber? I don't remember.
It's. I don't remember if they say specifically an amber ring, but there is mentions by Kvothe, Ari, and Will about amber rings. So I think there's going to be something to do with them.
Maybe book 3, Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Amber, sap, right? Mosquito.
Yeah, they don't talk about dinosaurs, but there's definitely dinosaurs in this world.
Well, there's a Dracus.
Yeah.
It's not too far, right?
No. Yeah. Yeah, no,
of course they
right.
Of course they well, I was going to say of course they exist, so you don't really need an amber whatever, sap, amber.
Yeah, they got that technology for cloning, all of that. They're ready.
They're ready. They're just waiting?
Yeah.
Just waiting for that moment? Okay.
They just haven't thought of it, but
got it all prepared.
They're there technology-wise. But yeah, then, so Sim asks him for a story, and he's like, fine, let me think. I closed my eyes, and a story with a mirror, and it bubbled to the surface. Hardly surprising. They'd been on my mind constantly since Nina had found me. I sat up straight. All right. I took a breath and paused. If either of you have to go piss, do it now. I don't like to have to stop halfway through. Huge fucking clue.
Yeah.
That there are pisses in this world.
They at least piss.
They talk about, he talks about it with the tree, talks about it there. There's definitely talk about it. We don't get the context though. He just says that. We don't know if he's like talking about like pee and liquid out your body. It could be something totally different that happens. We don't understand the human physiology in this world yet, but it seems like they do expel waste from their body. I think we're getting very close to solving the biggest mystery of the books.
It does seem to be insinuated.
Do they take pisses? They at least talk about pisses.
Yeah.
Do they take them? Still up for debate. It's definitely one of the most hotly debated topics of the books. But that's a big clue. It's a big clue. And then there's a place not many folk have seen, a strange place called Favorienial. If you believe the stories, there are 2 things that make Favorienial unique. First, it is where all roads in the world meet. Second, it is not a place any man has ever found by searching. It is not a place you travel to. It is a place you pass through while on your way to somewhere else. They say that anyone who travels long enough will come there. This is a story of that place, of an old man on a long road, and of a long and lonely night without a moon. That to me is the clearest evidence that Favorienial is like a place outside of both the Fae and their world. It's like an in-between place. It's a way station. Like you got the Waystones, this is like the way station where you can travel all throughout the world and travel wherever you need to go.
This is speaking directly towards it in such a way that I think and that's on. So it's like the circle of Greystones, right? So this would be like the circle, and all the Greystones go out in other directions, go out in other ways, and somehow you also can get into the Fae.
Yeah,
so it's one of the directions.
It could be that the circle of Greystones are things they lock behind the doors of stone, or that it is like King Phasia, you got to be buried in the proper way. So maybe you got to be buried behind a greystone in Faerenial to become a Draugr or something like that. There's some kind of significance to greystone doorways and Faerenial. But if you were going to hide Ajax in a place, you would think you're not going to hide him in the world. You're not going to hide him in the Fae. You think you would hide him in like this place outside of both of them that is extremely difficult to get to.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense. You would hide him in the most difficult to find place. But what's interesting about that, if it's also like a nexus, which everyone that travels will eventually travel to, it's accessible. Doesn't sound like it's easily accessible, but it is accessible.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to pin down. I do think it's going to play a significant part in book 3. I think it stands out so freaking much that there's something more going on with this place, and the fact that how much Skiop ties into Scarpy. He dreams of a circle of Greystones. There's a circle of Greystones in this story. You have all these Greystones, like they talk about, like Fae, that there's these are old roadways, markers to old roadways, but some are on mountains, some are at the bottom of, lakes where it doesn't make any sense. Well, it makes sense if these were like portals. Then it makes sense. And the fact that Kvothe goes into the Fae by Greystones, comes out of the Fae by a Greystone, there's just too much there. There's too much there for it not to be significant.
Yeah, it also makes sense also if they're portals, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's on land and water. You're traveling to these destinations. Doesn't mean you're going to, Taco Bell.
Yeah. No, you're going to Jack in the Box.
You're not getting off on 31 or something. You're getting off at whatever the Jack in the Box, whatever the the station is that you have. So yeah, I wonder if they have like little conductors. They got little guys like saying next stop Pottersville. Is that on the?
Yeah.
Is he in there?
Yeah, it's 100%. Yeah, didn't McDonald's have trains back in the day?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Well, at least like where we grew up,
they had party trains. They didn't have.
I had a birthday party
trains.
One.
They had like birthday party trains.
And creepy ass Ronald McDonald come in.
I didn't think he was creepy at all.
Looks a little creepy. I mean, yeah, you got to admit at this age, he definitely looked creepy. It's a big clown. I mean, I don't know, clowns are a little creepy.
He looks like a very professional clown. I think
is that very professional?
I think what you're like McDonald's, like Mr. McDonald, you can just cut me the check, and like I think
you're talking to Mr. McDonald.
Mr. McDonald, I think that Ronald McDonald looks very cool. He's very professional. He does not look creepy at all. And when you send the check, you can send that to me, and you can just cut Tim out of this because he's a big jerk.
I don't think they're still doing. I haven't seen. When was the last time you saw an ad with Ronald McDonald in it?
Been a while.
What about Hamburglar?
Like in this age, like I almost never see commercials anymore, so I don't even know what they're doing with commercials. I'm sure they're really good. I'm sure commercials are banging it out of the park now.
Yeah, they're really stepping their game up. There was something that I did want to mention because it cracked me up. The idea of it. I heard Kilvin got a few in him at the taps a couple months ago and wouldn't shut up about his new cold sulfur lamp. So I love the idea of this dude hanging out at the bar, just going on and on about I love
Talking
lamp.
About his lamp. I love lamp.
It just cracks me up, man.
I love Veronica Cornerstone. I love lamp. Do you really, Kelvin? Do you really love lamp? Or are you just saying that? I love lamp.
And then when he sobers up a little bit, he's like, no, man, did I tell you? It's like this cold sulfur. There's a process where...
Yeah, and then fucking Thunder comes on the radio, and he fucking just tears off his breakaway pants into his leotard. Fucking just starts doing splits, just one after another, just bouncing up and down, doing splits
on the table.
Thunder.
I love picturing that. With his arms up, with his legs spread between two tables, and he's just doing the Jean-Claude Van Damme.
He just grabs lamps off of other people's tables, and he's just lifting them up as he's like doing his splits. He's just one arm up after another. Saying, Thunder! Yeah, that's definitely Kilvin. We've nailed Kilvin. We've really fleshed him out into a much better character than even Rothfuss had came up with.
I was gonna say he's becoming my favorite character. Man. I love this guy. This dude's killing.
I love that he's got a leotard underneath everything he wears. He's just always ready to just start busting out into the splits.
I think that's why it's part of the reason why he's always sweating so damn much as well.
Yeah.
He's got that leotard plus the robe and everything else on. Got all that hair. Big ass beard.
All right, so next week we got, what do we have coming? We get the finish to the Feyreanial story. We get Skiop in Feyreanial, and then they go to settle their bet. Kvothe makes a bet with Will about the Amir and where they were founded, and then they go and settle Sem and Kvothe's bet, and Will and Kvothe's bet ends up leading to them needing to go and see Puppet. I think the furthest we would get is maybe to where Kvothe goes and apologizes to Devi, but that would be as far as we would get. I think most of it is going to be surrounded around Feyreanial and them settling their bets.
But I think we'll get to Puppet though, right?
We'll definitely get to Puppet.
Nice. It's great. I haven't read this chapter in a long time. It's great. It's fun. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I like the fact noticed? That we've talked about these chapters a ton, and we're finally getting to them where we can just talk about them. Obviously, we've talked about them as far as what they're built into as far as theories, but now we get to just shoot the shit about them.
So I was just leafing through here, and the chapter after Puppet is called The Greater Good. Ties in pretty well to what we've been talking about.
Yeah, but we're not going to cover that one. We're skipping that chapter.
Yeah, there's probably nothing significant in a chapter called The Greater Good.
Sorry, we're covering every single chapter in the books. You guys can we can skip one. You guys can just get over that. We're just skipping one chapter. It's not a big deal.
Maybe we should write in a few of our own? Do you think Rothfuss would be cool with that?
I mean, I think if you take all the episodes we've done and all the brilliant theories, you got at least 25 chapters out of that.
Well, you might have another series, bro. Mario Brothers theory.
You could have a standalone book on Kilvin and his yoga class.
Well, you got the boy band. You got there's a lot. There's a lot to tease out here with all these theories. Yeah,
a lot of good stuff. But all right, we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Peace.